One race down, 24 to go. It's not quite the Bushy Big Bush Race 400 at Kansas Speedway. This is the 13th season of the NORC iRacing Series at Kansas Speedway. Cody Miller has a win in the bag, and with it, the first points lead of the new season. Newcomer Tyler Justice excited at Daytona, just losing the drag race to the finish, and the rest of the NORC field was very close behind. Welcome, race fans, to Pit Stop TV. Eric Brennan and Emerson Arden are with me on the mic this evening. I've got Trey Shellsworth over on our social media coverage. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV, and this is Pit Stop TV's live coverage of the NORC iRacing Series. As you know, you have many viewing options to watch your sim racing action. We thank you for doing so with us here at Pit Stop TV, choosing Pit Stop TV, be it on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter. Finally, moving to a new racetrack for the first time on Pit Stop TV, we are bringing you NORC action once again from the Heartland, from Kansas Speedway. This 1.5-mile progressively banked Kansas Speedway is going to excite. Eric, this low downforce package, along with the progressive banking, the top line being relatively dominant, I think checks all the boxes for what should be an exciting round.
I agree with you, Andrew, and hello, everybody, and I am so happy. I've been looking forward to this race now since we wrapped up in Daytona just, 1 week ago, and it's for all the reasons in which Andrew Cardinale IV just outlined. I remember going to this venue with the Cup Series car on another series that we cover on the platform, and the general consensus amongst the drivers was, the way that the aero package is, it's going to be like another plate race. It's just going to be wide open all the time. That is not the case with this car here tonight at Kansas or with this track layout and design, and I think that just adds more fuel to the fire, Andrew, as to why me, you, and also we have Emerson Arden on the call with us. All three of us are looking forward to this one for many reasons, and that's the biggest reason why.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Really seeing how, the iRacing updates to these cars are really going to change these cars. These cars, just in practice, look like they're able to hook the bottom a lot more. A few weeks ago, these cars were only, able to run the outside, and that's really where all the speed was. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers kind of look around and find the speed tonight at what should be a truly multi-group track.
We've already had a bit of a top-down view of the Kansas Speedway, but let's take a good look at it here with our track map. It's very straightforward. It is a classic D-shaped oval, cookie cutter, if you will. But what changes Kansas Speedway, what sets it apart from all the rest, is the progressive banking and the values at which they have banked this racetrack. 17 degrees down to the bottom side, up to 20 up near the wall, and on the front stretch even, progressive banking there, and of course that apron is flat, and you're going to see it used a lot this evening, although I bet on old tires, I don't think we'll see too many of these guys actually use it. I think in a run on old tires, as grip levels start to deteriorate, I think they will stay up on the banking for obvious reasons. If you dip down, that transition is going to upset the race car and is going to send these drivers for at least a slide, if not worse. And something I talked about last week, guys, is the difference in the aero package for these NASCAR Xfinity cars. And we actually have this illustrated now. Take a look at this. You can see the differences in yellow. So the aero devices there highlighted in the bright yellow. You can see the Super Speedway package on the left. That's what we ran at Daytona. Has the larger splitter along with the taller but more narrow spoiler. So it's kind of a more chubby spoiler. It's very interesting. It enables a larger wake behind the car, obviously, that is leading, but a narrower wake of air, and then of course that kind of skirt along the bottom side of the race car, just underneath the very bottom fascia right there, Eric. That's a big stark contrast to what we have tonight. You can see almost no splitter on there, maybe an inch, if that, maybe a half inch of overhang it looks like, and I think only about 3 inches of actual spoiler, albeit wider.
Yeah, and that's the main reason why these cars are not as planted to the ground as you would expect a Cup Series car to be. On top of that, the fact that the rear spoiler is as thin as it is, even though it trickles over beyond the normal surface area that the restrictor plate or the Super Speedway package covers, you could still feel the effects of, let's say, or use the term aero loose if a car was to get up behind you. It's very easy to dump air either off to or perhaps even onto, if it was a bit of a side draft effect, onto that small of a spoiler. And I think that's why a lot of of these drivers love this car and this package, and that's not just on the sim platform. You're seeing it on the real world side as well. A lot of people are praising the modern day Xfinity Series car as being one of the best racing products because of the reasons that we're illustrating here. And the fact that, and I mean, Emerson, you may agree with me on this one, a lot of people may look at us going from Daytona to Kansas as a step down, or maybe the competition is going to thin out or be watered down a little bit. I don't think that's the case. I think because of what we see in front of us here as far as the aerodynamic design of these cars, even on a 1.5 mile track with progressive banking like we have here at Kansas, I think it's still going to be an exceptional show and a true test to these drivers.
Absolutely. If anything, and not to bash on Daytona by any means, I think this is a step up. I think we're really going to see, driver control, especially, with the multi-grooves again and this package, driver control become really the pinnacle of what we see tonight, just because of this track and the way it is. It's a high-speed track, and then if you're in the thick of that pack, this is where it's really going to be dependent on, where the air is moving all around you, and how, this spoiler will catch it different than it would at Daytona.
A lot of differences this evening, but one thing that we can take a look at and kind of a little bit of similarity, at least to last week, is the point standings. We go into this evening, of course, with Cody Miller right back on top. He's got that 9-point advantage to Tyler Justice as the first points lead of the season, and I gotta wonder if that is going to hold after this evening before we go into Michigan next week, or if that is going to fall away. It's very interesting that we have guys like Sheldon Lockey in third, Josh Robin in fifth, Tommy Gossett sixth. We're going to see some of those other guys, in fact, Justin Ford even in the top 10. We're going to see guys like Spencer Owens, Terrell Baker, Howie Briss, Bobby Chaney especially, Jared Darling, Zoltan Herzeg. We're going to see guys like them move up through the point standings, along with a lot of drivers that didn't get to race last week or didn't make it out to last week's race, that are going to rocket themselves through the point standings. And one thing that I have to make note of is the fact that Tyler Justice just led our practice session. I've called many a race, and I've raced in many a race that Tyler's run, especially on these intermediate speedways. I know he's going to be a threat to win tonight, if not the favorite.
Yeah, and especially when you have, I mean, a lot of people may look back at our coverage on Daytona and say, oh, Tyler Justice, you had a solid finish Daytona. That's a win, right? Not exactly. When you lose in the fashion in which he did to Cody Miller on the final lap, that's a little bit motivating. I mean, granted, the playoff picture is very interesting, and we'll talk about that more as we get further into our broadcast, but he's in a good position, second in points. You're watching him on your screen now. Exercise that very, very high line. As you see now, Cole Freilich lays down one of the quick times here as we kick things off to qualify. But if I'm Justice, I want redemption. The fact that I lost by such a narrow margin 1 week ago, and this is his first chance to get the job done, so it looks like he's coming out of the gate swinging.
Absolutely. As a racer, you want to win every... Oh, he's going to get the wall there.
He caught the apron on the inside. He actually apexed pretty early there, Emerson. I caught it just barely. He did not get a great entry to one at all.
Well, this kind of changes how we look. Now how we look at this race. Now it's a long race, 134 laps. But these cars, man, this is going to be definitely quite a challenge for Tyler Justice. He's going to be starting towards the rear of the field with that time. Now, he still set a time, obviously, on that first lap, but it was on that outside lane. And really, the point of that lap was for him to try to get the speed to really set up for that second lap. Well, that second lap now, it's not going to be at the part. Oh, Terrell Baker is in the wall.
This is going to be a very tough qualifying session. You see Baker take a header into the inside wall there. This is going to be a very tough qualifying session for these drivers. Some shade on the racetrack means that temps are going to come down a little bit, and it's going to feel like as a driver you want to just send it in that little bit harder even than you usually would in qualifying. They are definitely going for all they can right now, and getting tight is what I'm noticing. They're getting tight before they're getting loose. Hayes Booth, whoa! Where did that speed come from?
How about that? Keep good mojo from Pit Stop TV's own Hayes Booth laying down the quick time. Remember, he was in the top 10 towards the latter stages of Daytona last week and got taken out in a crash in turns 3 and 4. As now we look at Molyneux, who's on a bit of a flyer here, potentially P12 for the time being. But right now, Hayes Booth appears to be on provisional pole sitter. Look at the gap, though. 39 thousandths of a second back to David Shutt, who also was involved in a crash in the midway stages at Daytona. A handful of names at the top of the pylon looking for an opportunity to get their season on track here in this second race, and this would be another driver as well, Mr. Falkingham. who is on a bit of a flyer, and we'll see what he has in store. He ran very well and rebounded from a couple of crashes 1 week ago, but a clean slate here with a clean race car, and surprised to see how high these guys are running to try to keep that momentum up. He's way up in lane 3, and he'll be coming around to complete his qualifying run.
The more I think about it, maybe that outside lane isn't, as bad, because usually that was the lane you ran here, and then they updated the track to maybe help out a little bit. Now you see that was his first lap. He's gone down to the bottom of the second lap. But still on that outside lane, you are able to run near full throttle, which, the more power you can put in the car, the faster you can go. Now, is it, the quickest way around of a racetrack? Apparently to Falkingham it is not. But also for Daniel Falkingham, he was second in practice by a whole 2/100ths behind Justice. And so this should be a good lap for Falkingham. It'll be top of the charts.
The Falkingham goes fastest here in this quick qualifying session. Here's Jared Darling, a driver that was sure to excite last week at Daytona. Unfortunately, got caught up in a couple of incidents, and one even started off at the nose of his car. I believe that was what involved John Berry last week at Daytona. It was certainly a tumultuous time in Florida for the number 1 team, but down the backstretch, I don't think he's going to complete this lap, so I don't think he'll complete a second lap, but goes 15th quick so far. A lot of drivers in classic NORC style opting not to take a time this evening, so we'll see how they line up momentarily. Last few seconds, and Darling does not complete his time. That means Eric will move straight into looking at our starting grid for the second round of the NORC iRacing Series Season 13. Zoltan Herzeg, we just barely missed that. Goes to the top of the charts. Will start first this evening over Daniel Falkingham. That changes things up on the front row. Starting third place this evening, the inside row number 2, it's Hayes Booth with that very fast number 11, Sean Powell on his outside. Starting from the 5th position, David Shutt in the 5. Starting 6th, it's Howie Briss. The inside of row number 4 is Sean Williams in the 89, Matt Hummel to his outside. In the back row of the top 10, it's going to be Michael Keithley in the 53 and Aiden Kirker in the number 17.
Next batch of 10 drivers includes that of John Berry, multi-time winner in the series in the 74, starting 11th outside Ashley Molyneux, who we saw in her qualifying run earlier, in car 45, going to roll off 12th. Tommy Gossett in the 54, going to be fun to watch inside row 7. Outside's going to be Cole Freilich, who's caught up in an early crash Daytona, looking to better his results from 1 week ago. 15th is going to be Jared Darling, who came up just short of completing his second lap. And then we have Dylan Hertvin. I'll have to probably perfect that name later on tonight, but he'll start 16th on the outside of row number 8 in car 19. 17th is where you'll find Tyler Justice, who even though he was the fastest in practice, 17th in qualifying, and Will Klein, after being involved in an early crash Daytona, going to start in 18th here tonight at Kansas. And rounding out our top 20 is going to be Aaron Smith after the top 5 1 week ago, and Bobby Cheney in car 24 in 20th.
We fall back to row number 11. We'll find Chad Oxidine and Cody Miller, last week's winner, who'll be starting outside row 11. He'll be looking to go back-to-back, having to move 21 cars forward. Fall back to row number 12, and we will find it'll be Tom Mercier and Spencer Owens, picking up row number 12. Row number 13, we're going to find it'll be Terrell Baker and Sheldon Lockie. Row 14, it'll be Zach Lindgren and Elijah Gracia. And back to row number 15, we're going to find Brett Pancari and Scott Shire.
Back few cars this evening, Patrick Colby in the 9, Dylan Patterson in the 03, and I believe the back couple of cars, Taylor Fry in the number 21 car, and Justin Day there in the 39, and that does it. 34 cars this evening at the Kansas Speedway, set to go for 134 laps. It's going to be a fun one. I expect long runs, I expect old tires, I expect green flag pit stops, I expect the whole shebang this evening. Make sure you strap in, make sure you get ready for what is going to be an amazing run here at Kansas Speedway. Again, this is only round number 2 of the NORC iRacing Series here in Season 13. A lot happened last week at Daytona, but a lot more is yet to happen. So many great racetracks on the schedule. We'll talk more about some of them shortly. But for now, I tell you what, it is time to turn it over to the guy that gets these NORC iRacing events started off. DCB, take it away.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and Pitstop TV, for all you guys do for this NORC League. But here we are here in the middle of the United States of America. Here we are here at Kansas. All right, boys, here we are at Kansas. Let's run the bombs instead of top. Can I get a good old Kansas? Yeah!
Out of turn number 2, Zoltan Hergzag leading on the bottom side, Daniel Falkingham on his outside, and in behind they get single file down to turn number 3 for the first time.
This is going to be the first test as to what line may be the preferred line here tonight as Hayes Booth gets up into the wall from 3rd spot. He's going to lose a number of positions here, maybe fall out of the top 10, but he's able to hang on to his race car. But lap 1, we're still side by side for the lead, and it looks as though as they got to the line, it's still Falkingham and Hergzag wheel to wheel. Falkingham with the edge on the bottom lane in turn 1.
Yeah, you know, that's not obviously not ideal for Hayes Booth to find his way out of, you know, that top spot he was up there. Nicole Freilich gets the wall in into the middle of the pack. He makes contact with somebody else. Gets to save it down there. Looks like they'll save it. I was going to say, look at the hornet's nest that Hayes Booth fell back to. But my goodness, the action already on lap number 2.
And that was Tyler Justice that Cole Freilich just kicked to the inside, side by side across the stripe once more. And this is where we start to see the top side, well, maybe come in, maybe not for Zoltan Hergzag. It's going to be more beneficial down the straightaway. He crosses him up down to the inside. It feels a lot like last night in the BRPI Racing Series. A classic dirt crossover, an attempt at a slide job, and Zoltan's working the bottom.
Zoltan now, he wants to try to slide up in front of Falkingham, and he was nice there. He left the door open for Falkingham to keep the momentum up on the high side, although he can't quite draw alongside of Hergzag as they approach turn 1. They nearly touch entering the first corner, but it's Hergzag who has the advantage on the bottom. Can he complete the slider this time off too? He's going to try it, and he's got the pass made, but Falkingham closes right up and looks low.
This is exactly what we've been wanting here on iRacing, the multi-groove racing. The inside, the better line, but the outside gets that huge run off the corner, and almost a slide job, V-slide job complete by Daniel Falkingham back to the point as we complete 4 of 134.
So Tyler Justice trying to recover. It looks like he's slid into about the 31st position or so. All this battling going on further behind these guys. To see some of those players in the mix. Sean Powell battling with David Shutt. A lot of newcomers to this series. A lot of changing faces is really changing things up in the front.
Yeah, a lot of interesting names that we're going to follow, and we're only 5 laps in, about to come up to lap number 6, and I am loving the way in which this track is racing, but these drivers are going to have to be conscious of the fact that some of these sliders they're pulling, as we're on board with David Shutt heading into turn number 1, looking to get by Powell in that race for 4th position. Now he's going to work the high side, but the way this track is racing, if we get down to a late race restart, or once we get into the second half of this race, we may not see these guys be so kind to one another as far as trying to protect their respective lanes, and I think we're in for a bit of a treat here all night. I'm entertained by watching this top 5 with different lanes on the racetrack while Falkingham opens it up, but we still got great racing going on all throughout the pack, including right here in the top 5.
And I think, you know, there's still, you know, definitely advantages to, you know, both lines. You know, the outside lane, like I already said before, you get to that run off the corner, but you're more likely to save tires on the outside lane. You're turning the wheel a lot less, I guess, sharp into the corners to really keep that car down there. Now, I don't know if these setups, you know, are much better for that to really help the tire wear on the inside lane, but again, the outside, you're really going to be favoring that right front tire, and it might come into play on the long run. We'll see how it plays out, of course. Really a learning experience for all these drivers and myself just watching this.
A lot to learn from in these opening laps. Howie Briz sitting back at about the 6th position. We saw him have a great run at Daytona 1 week ago. Now sitting behind David Shutt, who works the top side over Sean Powell. Sean Powell, one of those names that I've not said in a long time. I don't think I've said Sean Powell since I was working with LSR TV on that truck series way back when in late 2017 and 2018. I'm really impressed by this speed so far. He's got a lot of pace in that 38 car, teammate to Tyler Justice, and is clearly showing that those Gearhead guys, they know what's up. The Phase 2 Motorsports clan, they are fast, but Tyler Justice nowhere to be seen after that contact with Cole Freilich.
Yeah, and as we came into our broadcast, we were talking about Tyler Justice and agendas and a little bit of motivation here tonight. And I think if we were to go back and rewatch the coverage from Daytona, we would look at David Shutt and the way in which his night unfolded and how he kind of got loose coming off turn 4 by himself. And after that, it unraveled about 2 laps later, and he ended up in a big accident in the tri-oval. He's on a bit of a redemption tour himself. He's up to 3rd, just made the pass on Sean Williams there to get into that 3rd position, and has his gun sight set on the top 2 in Falkingham and Hergzag as they enter 3.
not only does he have his sights set on the top two, he's actually making ground on the top two. I don't know if the top two, fought that hard that early and used up their stuff, but it looks like David Schutt's kind of on a whole other wavelength here. The way he was close enough. I mean, the way he moved his way in the third, it's kind of stagnated now, but only on lap 11, maybe also preserving some of the stuff in that 5 car as well. Just already seen that he appears faster than the top two as it is.
Definitely got to save tires here this evening. Tires. It's going to feel a lot like Atlanta, Darlington in that respect. Daniel Falkingham leading on lap 11 of 134. He's led most of the laps so far, but a very small sample size, and Zoltan Hergzang is coming back with an assault to this number 20 car. Zoltan has been methodically working in behind. He's working the top side, and I think this long run is going to be where the top side shines. I think it's just going to be more stable overall. It's going to allow these guys to run a little bit faster. But I will say, we do have Anthony Masadi out in the chat, one of the stars, in fact, most recent winner of the LTAC Cup Series, telling us that he feels it'll be a bottom line race.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how these lines form as we get later into a tire run. I mean, history would tell us that normally if you're running the bottom and holding a tighter radius through the corner, you're wearing your tires a little bit quicker. But with this type of aerodynamic design and with this new iRacing build, I'm not exactly sure that is in fact going to be the case. Anthony Musadi may have hit the nail on the head, but we're only 13 laps in. Top and bottom appear to be a little bit evenly matched. I'll give a slight nod to the bottom as you see the entire top 5, minus perhaps that of David Schutt running on the inside of the racetrack there through 3 and 4. But we're still a long ways away from figuring out exactly what line will be preferred, as Howie Briss is losing a couple of spots off 4.
Yeah, very slow for 4 for the 97 of Howie Briss, looking to regain himself there to the outside of Jared Darling. Jared Darling, by the way, started deep in the middle of the field. He's worked his way into the top 10, but Howie Briss, he hangs in there. He's still in the top 10, but if he's slow for what I think it is, there could be some right front damage on the 97, or he maybe just backed it off to keep it out of the wall. And no, the 17, that is Aiden Kirker, nearly up in the outside wall up there.
Wasn't nearly. He got it on the outside line, and that's the danger of running the top side here at Kansas. It used to be the only way to get around this place. Now there's the option of going down low and trying to save your right front, and I think most of these guys are certainly going to try and do so. Still battling up front, though. These two all over one another. It just doesn't quit. Daniel Falkingham leading by just inches, feet sometimes, over Zoltan Hergzang, and I don't think that's going to end anytime soon. Into third now, though, goes Sean Powell. He puts that Chevy Camaro in front of the number 5 Toyota Supra.
Yeah, and one name that just jumped out on me on the timing and scoring ticker is the driver in 6th spot, in Will Klein. I'm aware that he started well outside the top 10. He's already made his way up into 6th, and somebody who we have dubbed as he's got a big run on Sean Williams here trying to crack the top 5. We gave him credit. Look at that. Started 18th, and now on lap 16, making the outside lane work to move to 5th on the outside of Sean Williams. He's somebody that we put as a potential favorite at Daytona, and he was one of the first cars to go out of the race after an incident that was not of his own doing. You talk about people who are motivated, I'll put Will Klein at the top of that list, and he is proving it here by rocketing his way through the front of the pack here. He just got up into the top 5.
Rocketing indeed. He just put an absolute power move there on a top 5 driver. Well, not any longer, but Sean Williams. So that is some high-level competition. Will Klein is just breezing by. And I don't know if it's him just really liking the track or it's tires, but this 48 is coming out to play and might be a force to be reckoned with in the coming laps.
Lap traffic for the first time for these drivers now to the far side of lap 17 here at Kansas. And we do have, I believe, the slow 21 of Taylor Frey. No, that is Tom Mercier, I think, in the 68 car. Let me get a confirmation on that. And yeah, that is Tom Mercier about to go 1 lap down. So NIS Tom not feeling the Xfinity cars this evening at Kansas Speedway. Daniel Falkingham going to run right down to the bottom side and try and get around the 68 Ford Mustang. You guys mentioned names that are catching your eye. I'm looking to about the 12th position right now. How about Zach Lindgren? Former roommate. Long time, really good, if not best friend. This guy has gone from 27th to 12th, and he is moving. He's up to battling with Aiden Kirker and TCB. The 85 is on rails. This is his first ever NORC start. I've talked a lot about this guy as well. He's got talent.
Yeah, he's actually right into the tire tracks of TCB here, trying to follow him up into the top 10, but that may qualify as one of our biggest movers in Zach Lindgren, and he's learning a little bit, it seems. He's kind of latching on to some of the names which we already told a lot of our viewers would be ones to watch as far as working their way up through the pack. And Zach Lindgren is doing just that here in the Ford. And he's got a big run on TCB here in the 1, but he'll elect to stay in line. And I just want to give a round of praise to all the drivers in this field, because we've got comers and goers. We've had 20 laps of clean green flag racing, hoping I don't jinx it right here. And the racing has been phenomenal, and we necessarily don't know just how this track will continue to evolve. And they're still battling side by side here in this battle for 10th spot, with Lindgren trying to get up into that top 10. TCB, though, fends him off to the line.
You know, it's amazing to see just so many drivers, you know, choosing not to qualify, you know, I guess for the purpose of just having fun, working through traffic and working through the field. I think that says a lot maybe about the iRacing update for this track, and that drivers really like it. They really like, you know, having the force, you know, overtakes around here instead of, you know, just riding behind the car in front of you. Even if they're slower than you, how are you going to pass them on the old build? Now you have options. And I think these drivers are really, you know, having a lot of fun with being able to use 2, maybe 3 different lanes of this track. I just hope they're not shredding tires. With that being said, Will Klein also just moved his way around David Shutt. As we look back up towards the front, there's Will Klein, and there's a battle up ahead of him too.
Well, that is the lapped car of Tom Mercier being lapped by Sean Powell. Sean Powell goes right on by, and the 68 is playing nice with all these drivers as they work on by his slower Ford Mustang. Very tight up the outside of turn number 4 there. Will Klein, though, this is amazing stuff from he and Zach Lindgren. I think the 48 and the 85 are going to be 2 cars to watch as this race goes on. We talked a lot about Tyler Justice towards the start of our show. He is currently 3 wide with Spencer Owens and Michael Keithley.
Yeah, this is not the position which we thought Justice would be in at this race, as he rim rides his way around the outside here, does Justice. He's right back up to where he qualified, but remember, he fell way down in the running order of this 34-car field when they came to green, and he's currently now mired in the bottom portion of the top 20, trying to pick up some more ground here as they come out of turn number 4. But I would not pull the plug on Tyler Justice just yet. Very early in the going in this first run, and he appears to be taking his time, even though he is evidently a little bit quicker than some of the competition around him as he works the bottom, nearly getting pitched there off at turn number 2. But he's got a tough road to hoe here, while some of his counterparts have easily made their way up to the front of the field. The same could not be said for Justice, as you can see all the traffic that's out in front of the windshield here in 3.
Yeah, I don't think this is, you know, Tyler Justice isn't sounding the alarm in that 7 car whatsoever yet. Yeah, because there's still a lot of racing to go, over 100 laps to go, and he knows he's got the speed with over 2 100ths faster than Daniel Falkingham in practice, who's our current race leader. So Tyler Justice, you know, he definitely can get up there and, you know, still have his way with the field, but it might not come entirely under green, or, you know, maybe some strategy might have to come into play, because, you know, the further you move up the field, the harder it gets to overtake these people. And Tyler Justice now, he's about to send it 3 wide here. This is phenomenal. No, he did not get to the inside of the 17. But nonetheless, he is moving forward still. And I think it's going to be quite the feat if Justice can get back up there to, you know, where he was at the end of practice.
The stat lines will surely be swayed in the way of Tyler just kind of equalizing, as far as he's going to get right back to about where he started. It's not going to show that he got thrown way to the back of the field below 30th position and has had to work his way back up. It's also worth noting that Spencer Owens is in this battle. I expect him to be pretty good as the run goes on, and as the tires wear off, as Kirker gets in the fence, saves that race car just in front of Bobby Chaney, and will now lose that spot. You've also got Howie Briss back here, who got the wall earlier on, is now kind of recovering, trying to get himself back into a run. You got Sheldon Lockie, Aaron Smith, Ashley Molyneux, Justin Day, a lot of guys back here, and that one gal, they're just trying to hang on as 2 cars in the wall. Michael Keithley and Sheldon Lockie pound the outside fence out of turn number 2.
Yeah, I'll steal a line from one of the spotters at one of the initial NASCAR Roval events. It looks like Keithley led the Army off the cliff there. He was the first one to hit the fence out of 2, and everybody else behind him just seemed to follow. And one thing I'm noticing, and being that I do not have as much experience on the sim as my counterparts in Andrew Cardinale and Emerson Arden, but it seems like wall contact and damage, as we got a fight for third developing on the racetrack, could negatively impact you pretty significantly, I would say. We saw how he brisked get the wall early, and he hasn't been the same ever since. It seems like that one slip up and right front damage could really impact the relative speed you have on your car throughout the remainder of the run, so you get a chance to fix it. Is that just a naked observance on my part, being that I don't have too much experience on here, Emerson, or is that something which you're also seeing play a bit of a role here once these drivers get the right side in the paint?
Absolutely. Preserving, that right side of that race car is right up there, actually having the pace to contend, because iRacing, they really penalize you if you damage that right front or really any part of the car. You are going to feel it on the straightaways and the corners. If, the car won't turn as well, the car won't be getting up down the straightaway. It really does, reward those drivers, who are patient, and maybe, if they're getting tight and they're pushing towards the wall, they get off the throttle. You'll see that a lot more, especially as the runs wear on, and maybe even drivers who've already damaged their car once, they're going to be more motivated to stay away from that wall because they're already feeling the effects. So yeah, and then when you even get to pit, and if it's green flag pit stops, you're screwed. What do? Do you take the damage, lose more time, potentially a lap, or do you stay out and just keep losing, bit by bit on the racetrack? Even if you get all that damage repaired, it's not going to be 100% perfect. So it is, again, very beneficial to keep that car out of the wall, and it is being put on display early here at Kansas.
These race cars are designed to go really fast in the forward direction one way. When you mess with any part of that, it's much like Anthony Masadi's saying in the chat, that becomes a parachute. It really is like in an NHRA dragster when you pull the chutes and you just sink back. Getting wall damage here, it might not seem like a lot at first, but these composite bodies on iRacing still have a little bit of catching up to do to the composite bodies of real. They can't quite take the hit that you expect based on the real races with these NASCAR Xfinity Series cars. The impacts will definitely hurt you over the course of a run. Tommy Gossett getting passed up right here by Jared Darling. And Tommy's got a good-looking race car so far. That 54 car, the Toyota Supra, working the bottom side, but it seems like he's starting to go the wrong direction. Jared Darling's got a pretty good number 1 Chevrolet Camaro underneath of him. And, well, maybe not. Maybe Tommy can hang on. But we took his onboard for a moment. We'll go right back to him. Zach Lindgren still moving through the field, now into the top 10. In fact, ahead of Sean Williams.
Yeah, and Lindgren continues his climb up through the field. Last time we checked in on him, he was up to 10th. As you can see, he's gotten by Sean Williams, who's unfortunately heading in the wrong direction, is that of Williams. He was battling for a top 5 spot in the first 20 laps of this race. He's now trying to hang on to the top 10. But this is a good race position here, and you see TCB on the bottom. In fact, on the apron of the racetrack, following Williams through for races for position that are happening with Cody Miller in tow. And Andrew Cardinale IV mentioned the fact that we do have a number of Supras in the field, and I'll remind everybody that it was a first for us with Miller last week on the platform, having a Toyota Supra and Victory Lane on the platform. Perhaps we could see back-to-back wins by such a manufacturer and make of a car. If Miller doesn't get run into from behind here by the car that is on the move, and Tyler Justice, who's starting to make some noise now as he approaches the top 10.
My goodness, he's flying forward, and he's trying to shut me right up from what I said about 10 laps ago. Tyler Justice is on it, almost into the top 10. What a feat this is. What a drive this is by Tyler Justice. And yeah, I mean, how cool does it feel, to say that you have a Toyota Supra on your screen? Like, you think of Toyota Supra, you think, back, to the street car. We got race car Toyota Supras on an oval, and it's phenomenal. I'm not too much of a fan of Toyota, but when I see Supras, man, those are some beasts.
Yeah, Supra takes you immediately back to the late 80s, the early 90s, the late 90s even, and that whole JDM scene. But here in NASCAR, it means something different because it means almost dominance. It's felt like these last couple of years in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and that begun just about the same way with these two drivers on screen. Last week's finish is this week's 10th place, or no, I guess 11th place battle with Tyler Justice and Cody Miller. But it could be 10th place here soon because they are working up to TCB, who's just hanging on inside the top 10.
And it's hard to believe that we have already nearly eclipsed 40 laps in this race. But and I'm loving the fact that we're seeing, we mentioned comers and goers in the first 20 lap stint. Now we're in that second phase here as we start to develop this middle to longer or end of the run type of pace. And you're starting to see cars like that of Tyler Justice come alive and just get up into the top 10. Jared Darling also making some noise later in this run. Things have stayed relatively stable across the front three, but there are some heavy hitters here on the bottom portion of the top 10 or just outside the top 10 that want their presence to be made known without the assistance of a yellow flag. We've gone clean and green here throughout the first 38 plus laps of this race, and pit strategy is something that is going to start to weave its way into the picture here if things stay clean out on the racetrack for the next handful of laps or so.
Yeah, I've actually been, sitting here kind of contemplating the fuel strategy a little bit, because these guys, they're running 100% fuel loads. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they can go quite a while on these fuel loads. Now, I don't think they can make it on a one stop. If you say it might be close, but I really think, we're going to find a sweet spot here in about 10 to 15, maybe 20 laps. And back to that point of fuel strategy, it's really going to be setting yourself up, I guess, for the end of the race. And I guess maybe more or less waiting for a yellow towards the end. I'm more on the fact now of the drivers that have just entered and forced their way into the top 10, like Justice and Lindgren and Will Klein, who's just powered his way forward. If they can stay up here through that round of pit stops, man, it's going to be a competitive top few drivers.
We've talked a lot about a lot of drivers throughout this field. How about the top two? They have spread out a little bit, but Daniel Falkingham is only just getting to that second and a half lead. He's only just ahead of these guys. One big mistake out of him, and he is falling back to third position, if not worse. Falkingham really has not run away just yet. I'm liking this out of this package so far. I'm liking this out of these race cars, out of this racetrack. I'm liking that, yes, Daniel can kind of get out to a nice lead, a comfortable lead, but Zoltan is still relatively close, almost within the same camera shot, and Will Klein is only that much further back. Even Sean Powell's still within the same frame. Sean Powell's back here racing with, well, I guess he's a little bit further back, battling behind the 19 currently of Dylan Hervaten, and Dylan is a lap down. He's in 31st spot, so he's not for position. Sean just needs to get on by him. It's also worth mentioning where we keep talking about these guys that are coming up through the field. I mean, Zach Lindgren, he's up to 6th position. He harps on himself a lot. He talks a lot of smack about himself. He needs to stop doing that because this has been an amazing drive so far. Up 21 positions in only twice as many laps. That is incredible stuff from Zach Lindgren. As far as fuel, yes, we do have a full fuel load, 18.7 gallons, in contrast to the usual 9.4 we get used to, but a caution is out, and this is going to involve, I believe, Aaron Smith.
And what a heartbreaker for the driver who we kept touting at the end of the race Daytona for keeping his car so clean. A name we didn't call on throughout most of the event because he was keeping himself in the proper position to not get caught up in a crash. And unfortunately here, he scuffs the wall out of 2 and then hooks it down to the inside and pounds the inside retaining wall just as the car disappeared from our frame. It looked as though he tried to get on the binders there and stop it from impacting hard on the left front of that car, but could not keep it out of the fence entirely, and that is what puts us under the first caution of this race for a driver who had such a strong start to the 2021 NORC season, but he has found trouble early here in Kansas.
Yeah, even the casual fan, you almost, feel bad for him. If you've driven these cars, you know how tough it is. 43 green flag laps at Kansas. In this car, the Xfinity car is very, very tight most of the time. And that it's almost unavoidable. You really have to be very patient. I think, he was just he was kind of in his own world. There was not really anybody around him. So maybe a slight, loss of focus might have, seen him take maybe an altered line or an altered exit or altered pickup point on the throttle. And there she went.
Pit stops now on lap 44, and unbelievably, this is perfectly on schedule. I was doing some math on my other screen here, and I was checking into how many laps a third of this race would be. 45. Well, 44.67, I think. So this is perfectly on schedule for these drivers. This is exactly where you would want to stop during a green flag run and to split this race up into equal parts. You see these guys, oh wow, Howie Briss, is that a botched pit stop or a different fuel strategy, or tire strategy rather? He gets out very early. Sheldon Lockie the next out. That might have been 2 tires. I think Howie Briss messed up on his pit strategy. We'll see exactly what happens as, oh, Sheldon Lockie, be careful on pit exit. Daniel Falkingham first out of the drivers that were up in the lead anyway. Zoltan Herzeg follows him out. Sheldon Lockie, I wonder about that stop. I wonder if that was 2 tires.
You would have to assume so, being that he was not up in the top 10 by any stretch of the imagination. But I would not be totally surprised if it in fact was, because Sheldon was somebody who did play the role of strategy back at Daytona. He was one of the first drivers to get a little bit off kilt as far as the pit strategy early in that race, put him up towards the front of the running order. And although he wasn't able to stay there throughout the extent of that stint, it looks as though that he's going to be joining Howie Briss here back on the pit lane, and they're going to be coming back down for service. So perhaps a misstep or a miscue on their part, or a coordinated effort perhaps to maybe get down that they could in fact lead a lap, but that's going to cycle Falkingham back up to P1 as we continue to circulate behind the pace car.
Yeah, both of those drivers, what was it, Lockie and who else? Briss, they both missed their pit boxes there on that stint, or that run through the pit lane, and you can't really fault them for it. Depending on what graphics settings you run, you have 34 pit boxes there on the left side of your screen, and if you don't remember exactly where you qualified, if you're in the middle of the pack, it is so hard to find your little sign that dangles on the left side of your screen, and you can't really fault them for missing their pit boxes, especially on a busy pit lane. But that's unfortunately what happened to both of those drivers.
While we have this caution period, we'll take a break. Well, a break from our normal kind of looking at strategies and such. We'll talk to a quick driver, definitely a quick driver. We'll take a quick talk with him. Daniel Falkingham leading this race, and buddy, it's been a very clean start for you so far, only missing 4 laps of that run where Zoltan was able to beat you to the line. Otherwise, you led every single lap.
Yeah, so far it's a good start for us here. It was definitely fun racing Zoltan there on the start. Man, we could use the bottom, we could use the top. Man, it was a really good start to the race for us. A lot of fun swapping the lead there. But it's definitely interesting to figure out which lane's the fastest. I think the bottom's going to be the way to go for right now. It'll be interesting to see, like, if there's a close battle for the lead, like what different lanes you use. I know Zoltan tried the high lane, but I don't think it worked that as well for him before. So I think it's probably a bottom is most likely the lane you want to be running, especially to keep your tires intact, because this thing gets really tight on a long run. So it's important to keep the right front intact, so try to keep it running that white line and try not to plow off the corner and whatnot. So it's definitely been a really good race so far, and hopefully we can keep it this way.
I love that I don't even have to ask you questions, although I do have one more for you real quick, Daniel. Looking at pit strategy, from here to the end, it's almost perfectly on schedule with what it would have been if you split this race into thirds. So are you going to come in at about 45 laps, or are you going to try and stretch something out or short pit?
It's going to be interesting. If we're in the lead, it's probably going to come down to whoever pits behind us. We could run long, make sure we have the better tires at the end, but I know tires will equal out quickly if we run them too hard. So it's definitely going to be an interesting game of strategy, that's for sure.
Daniel Falkingham leading this race. We'll let him get back to work as he gets ready to restart this thing, and I'm sure we'll be talking to him later on. Very interesting perspective there. I love getting to talk to these drivers mid-race, love getting to talk to them at some point throughout this event, regardless, through all of our broadcasts. It really adds a lot to our coverage. Daniel Falkingham coming down to the restart zone, off and away, very early restart. He gets a big hole shot on the rest of the field. Tyler Justice moving his way through.
Yeah, David Shutt had a thought about going 3 wide there for second, but he got kicked up on the high side by Powell, who gets a good run through the middle of the corner. Meanwhile, Falkingham is loving this because he's got a 2-car length advantage over Zoltan Herzeg, while Shutt and Powell remain door to door. And hello, Top 5. My name is Tyler Justice, and I'm coming through. Here comes the car that was fastest in practice into the top 5, and he's got his eyes set on the 2 that are double wide ahead of him, trying to get up to a podium spot. There's the use of that apron you were talking about, Andrew. He uses all 4 tires there on the flat and pulls up to the backside of Powell for 4th.
Sizing up Powell now. Tyler Justice trying to make, well, he's in the top 5 now, I think, for the first time today, and trying to work his way even further forward. Teammates going at it here for the 4th position. I also want to mention Lindgren and Klein, who were 2 drivers really moving their way forward. They ended up restarting towards the rear of the field, so I can only assume maybe pit penalties or mistakes on pit road, but it's going to be interesting because they've already made their way through the field once. and they were, prime competitors up front. So we'll see if they can do it again in these final 94 laps.
Battling out of turn number 2. The entire field funnels out up near the wall as they race right back down into the banking in turn 3. Tyler Justice moved off of the bottom side by Cody Miller. I'm very surprised by the strength of this 28 car this evening. He also talks a lot of smack about himself. He's got a lot to be happy with right now as he moves on by Tyler Justice for the 4th position. And how about John Barry there in 6th? This is incredible stuff from all of these guys up front. A lot of great runs so far. A lot to be happy with if you're pulling for any of these guys up front.
And some of them, including the likes of Miller, Justice, Berry, they started outside the top 10, and they've already charged their way so far forward. But you have to wonder if Tyler Justice may be having some unfortunate flashbacks of a week ago when he watched that 28 car go by him, as that is how the race ended for him at Daytona, and he had to watch that 28 drive to victory lane. You're on board with him now, but Cody Miller is not done. He's trying to squeeze to the bottom of David Schutt there in turn 1, but Schutt will, pun intended, slam the door shut and hold on to that 3rd spot for now. But the top 4 are nose to tail in relatively close proximity as Miller is committed to the bottom, and Schutt nearly tags the back end of Herzeg as they come out of 4.
Woo! Nearly accordioning there at the center of 3 and 4, and man, what a run it would be for Cody Miller. Could you imagine if he got it done the first 2 weeks of the season, the first one being Daytona? That would be insane, and it would kind of establish himself as an early favorite. But right now, going at it with David Schutt for the 3rd position down on the inside, he's got to be able to send it down in there, I think, if he's going to try to get that position. Can he also get the 96 of Herzeg? No! Tight! Almost contact, maybe contact between Schutt and Miller.
David Schutt falls then into 4th position. Zeldy right back up into the podium. How about this? From the 28, Cody Miller has an amazing car underneath him this season. This is incredible. He certainly seems like he's put in this work, but knowing him, I don't know if he's even practiced at all for this season. He's just got some talent and certainly is putting it to use this evening. What does scare me a little bit is that much shallower entry, the much sharper entry straight down to the white line on the inside of the corner. That is going to wear that right front out over time, I'd imagine. But hey, what do I know? I'm up here calling the race, not driving the race car. We'll see how it works out for Cody Miller. I was looking over my stats, though, as he goes to the inside of Zoltan Herzeg, and Zoltan right down on his door, keeping things tight, keeping things close out of turn number 2. They'll keep fighting down the backstretch, and I wonder if Cody Miller can send it to the inside here in 3. He's going to take a shot at it, and Zoltan going to go back to work on the top side. Only one driver in the history of the NORC iRacing Series has doubled up and won 2 races here at the Kansas Speedway. That was Marcus Richardson in seasons 1 and 7 in 2015 and 2018. Only 4 drivers in this race have ever won here before in NORC iRacing competition, those being Josh Robin in the 8, Garrett Darling in the 1, Will Klein in the 48, and your race leader, Daniel Falkenham in the 20.
And if we were to judge strictly based off of Daytona, I could understand the level of intensity that is coming out of a Falkingham or a Herzeg. But the only driver in the field playing with a little bit of house money, granted not guaranteed, is that of Cody Miller. As we mentioned earlier in the lead-in, at least the top 10 are going to be locked into the potential playoffs with some additional information to be announced a little bit later on. But Miller's got to win. He's the points leader. If he has a misstep, he's got the rest of the regular season to make up for it. He's already on top of the field as far as the standings are concerned, but he wants to try to go 2 for 2 to kick off this season, and he is 1 spot shy of being able to hold on potentially if he can lead the rest of the way to make that happen. He's just clearly cemented 2nd spot over Herzeg, now sets his sights on Falkingham, who's been the dominator since he got to the lead, but Miller has a peek down low, and Falkingham slammed the door shut and won.
You know what's happening here is Cody Miller, I think Andrew mentioned it a little bit ago, was that taking that shallow entry. He's doing that, he can get to the inside of those cars. You see the Falkingham and Herzeg, they're arcing it into the corners, which of course, is going to favor the right front tire and help that right front tire not wear as much. And Miller, I believe, by taking that shallow line is going to really hurt that right front. But he's able to put himself in that position. All he needs to do is get up alongside of that driver. Once he can get up alongside, now we're talking. He almost did it with Falkingham a lap ago. Now trying to size up race leader down the back.
Terrell Baker now 2 laps down. Not sure what's happened for the Stacker 2 Chevrolet Camaro. Love that throwback. That's a paint scheme I've not seen in quite some time. But the 25 car now in the 29th position. Certainly not how Terrell Baker wanted to open up his season 13 here in the NORC iRacing Series. As low as 31st this evening. I have to believe that was very recently, as he, again, sits in the 29th position. Still keeping things very close up front is Cody Miller, all over the back end of Daniel Falkingham. Even close in behind, John Barry's been all over the back end of Tyler Justice for a while. I mentioned Spencer Owens would be on his way to the front. Well, here he is, 7th place.
Yeah, Spencer Owens, I love that livery. It's like the old school Sam Hornish back in what was the then Nationwide Series days with, oh, he almost caught the wall there off of 4, did Owens. But that is an old school look. As a matter of fact, I don't know. I have to go back and look to the racing reference charts, but I believe that Sam ran very well at Kansas when he ran these similar colors back in the day. But Spencer Owens is trying to make a name for himself in these colors, and he's closing up on the car that is a driver who has 8 NORC wins to his credit on the all-time wins leader coming into this season, and John Barry, who's also trying to better some of his fortune that he had at Daytona. That's a similar tune we've been singing throughout most of the field, but he's coming on here, and the track's going to continue to evolve, Emerson, as we inch towards halfway, and this race continues to click by. We're seeing that certain lines are favorable. We're seeing that certain approaches or entries to the corner are favorable, but that may not be a constant going on throughout the rest of this race. I don't think anything is really certain at this point, and that comers and goers trend is going to continue, in my opinion, throughout the second half of this event.
Absolutely, and another thing to mention is we're running ×2 acceleration on the Sky right now, and it's getting 545 in sim. This is getting in the sunset time, and I think we could maybe experience a transition here, which is really gonna change the track. It's gonna drop the temperature big time, and the grip is gonna be all over the place. Man, I can't wait. These cars are already pretty racy, and I think the nighttime is gonna make them even racier.
A big shout out to the Facebook chat checking in and seeing that Sarah Lindgren is watching this evening. A lot of family usually watches these league races on the iRacing.com service. Doesn't matter if it's NORC, doesn't matter if it's LTAC or anything else, even leagues that we don't cover. Usually family is the #1 group of people that tune in, and Sarah Lindgren is sure to catch all the races that she can, that her son Zach is in. We've talked a lot about Zachary so far this evening. He's currently sitting in the 21st position, however, after what was likely a pit penalty. And boy, does he have a lot going on in front of him. It's almost like, I'd say a hornet's nest, maybe a carpenter's bee's nest there, Eric.
Yeah, that's a soft subject for me as I'm trying to battle one of those problems at my own house here. But Zach Lindgren is certainly going to be, as long as he's not looking like he's swatting bees from behind the virtual steering wheel of that car when he comes off the corner. The car seems planted, but he's around a couple of vehicles, including that of Cole Freilich, who's got some obvious damage to the left rear of that car. And you see Freilich there have to pedal it, and Lindgren methodically and wisely elects to slowly move his way down low, and I'm all for this. I know he's not running where he was earlier, but we've already seen him be able to prove his way, working his way back up through the field, and I'm pretty confident that Zach is about to put on another charge here as we inch closer to the halfway point of this race.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of racing to go. Like you said, halfway, and he already worked his way up there once from, in 40 laps. So with, 67 to go, he's very capable. But again, I think that track change could help, could hurt. We'll have to see. It's going to be interesting. Plus, there's still, that pit stop coming out doesn't happen in 20 laps, doesn't happen in 40 laps. We're also going to have to see with that on board now with Molyneux working to the inside here of I think, Gracia. And this is going on for the 20th position.
Ashley Molyneux making her first start of the season. Big run so far, up into the top 20 now as she passes Elijah Drew Gracia, goes on by that 42 Ford Mustang, and Ashley's a longtime member of NORC. Good to see her making her first start this evening. I'm actually very excited to see how Ashley does this season, moving over to a driver's race car. I know Ashley's got a lot of talent, and I think Molyneux will be up towards the front a lot this season. We'll see how it works out. Still up at the front, it's all Daniel Falkingham, but this is that drop. This is the goer aspect of this race that we've expected to see, especially with the entries to the corner that Mel was taking. Cody Miller dropping back, and I think this is going to feel like an anchor, honestly, for the 28 car.
Yeah, it is not looking too good for Miller, as you see Herczeg's gotten by, and also let's not turn our back on Tyler Justice just yet. We talked about him being buried in the field earlier. He's now trailing up this top 5, and I will say this top 5 is running in closer proximity than they were prior to the caution came after lap 44. So not sure how many of these front 5 are biding their time or maybe saving their stuff for the end of the run, but Tyler Justice is somebody who is just lurking quietly as he peeks down low to try to fill up the mirror. I would say that of David Shutt in turn 3, but I think that for Miller, that's something we got to look out for certain. But I'm just wondering if Tyler Justice has shown his full hand just yet, or is he just kind of patiently stalking his prey?
Man, that's what I love about this, man. You don't know until it happens, and even then you sometimes don't know. But Tyler Justice riding behind Shutt, coming down the back straightaway. They're going to have to find their way around Cody Miller quickly. Whoa, what a move from Shutt.
That was one way for David Shutt to try and get on by the 28 car, but Cody does not want to give way on the bottom side. He wants to hold that bottom and make them work for it. On the top side of the racetrack, Cody Miller still defending all the way down to the white line, down the front stretch, that curved front stretch, all the way down to the bottom of the apron, and protecting the inside of turn number 1. Still fighting things out. A little further back, these guys started to sort things out as well, where Jared Darling is up in front of John Barry and Spencer Owens now, and a big move here from Spencer Owens to the bottom side of turn number 3.
We've watched Spencer Owens follow John Barry's tire tracks lap after lap, and now we've got Oxendine starting to close up as well, just behind. Maybe going to try to take advantage of the hole that was opened up by that of Owens on the bottom, but not quite yet. Barry now crowds Owens down to the apron of the racetrack there, but not too much where he's on the rear spoiler of that 12 car entering turn 1. Owens going to try to get back to the power. Are we going to see one of these Kansas Speedway slide jobs? No. Owens gives him a lane up top, and Barry's going to battle back on the outside. This is incredible side-by-side racing. We are watching for 8th place between that of Spencer Owens and John Barry. And now Oxendine's going to try the 3rd lane as we got a battle brewing up here for 3rd spot.
Tighter and tighter of this battle. Their 3rd goes Miller trying to block Shutt up the inside. Goes Justice trying to get a 2-for-1 special to the inside there. 3 wide, 3 different lanes. Looks like Shutt's going to have to fade back a little bit, and Justice is going to have to get out the throttle to make the exit of the corner, and Cody Miller, yeah, it looks like he's kind of used up his stuff, but some brilliant defending from the 28 car.
Amazing racing this evening, and it's still going on back here closer to the back side of the top 10. Oxendine up ahead of John Barry. That's good for 9th. Now, we've gone quite a ways in this race so far. In fact, past halfway and then some. We don't have stages here in the NORC iRacing Series, no stage points, nothing like that. We don't stop the race without a caution coming organically from some kind of incident on the racetrack. That's a big difference here for the NORC iRacing Series compared to a lot of NASCAR-style iRacing leagues, and that is huge. That means these guys have to prepare for the possibility, the more likely possibility, of green flag pit stops unless we get a very convenient caution here in the next 20 laps or so, much like earlier in this race. Still watching things up further ahead as Cody Miller, I don't know how he does it, he's still in front of both Tyler Justice and David Shutt. Clearly the bottom side is the way to go.
Yeah, and that was something which we heard people chime in earlier, like Anthony Musatti from the LTAC series. He's the one who said, I think the bottom's going to be the way to go. And for Cody Miller, he's proving Musatti right. And I'm with you guys. That entry that Miller is taking, it's working, but it's making me nervous. I feel like he's so susceptible to dipping the left sides onto the apron of the racetrack and it upsetting that car. Not only for the fact that he may lose a spot, but he could lose his entire race car, but he seems to have it perfected, that very shallow entry into the corner. But if he gets that wrong or misjudges it just a little bit, it could be absolute disaster, and that could be why Tyler Justice is in such a hurry to get by, and he might finally have Miller up off the bottom here in 3. They almost touch.
Remember, that's exactly what Tyler Justice did in his qualifying run, Eric. Tyler got the inside apron with his left front, and that sent him into the fence. That's why he started so deep in this field.
A chink in the armor of Cody Miller, and that's exactly the advantage that Tyler Justice needed to find. Man, I still got to give major props to Cody Miller. I mean, again, like I think we've all been saying, I don't like that entry into the corners, but man, he's been putting that car exactly where he needs to be. Further back in the field here, there's a battle going on down the back straightaway. This is Tommy Gossett in the 9th position. This is okay. This is still the same battle going on. Chad Oxendine has gone up to the 8th position.
And so far, this 54 is starting to look like a long-run machine. The Circle B Diecast 54 Toyota Supra moving his way up into the top 10. This is pretty big for Tommy Gossett. He had fallen way back outside this top 10 and has driven himself back up, and I love those very bright CircleBDiecast.com colors. I know he's actually got some legit partnerships on that machine, and that is one of them. So the Plan B sales, Circle B Diecast, Toyota Supra moving forward, and he got on by Spencer Owens, John Barry, and is in front of this guy, Will Klein. We talked about him earlier, very, very fast in this race. He's Will Klein at the line for a reason. Didn't quite get it done at Daytona 1 week ago, but he's got speed again this evening. Started 18th, as low as 29th, and is almost inside the top 10 once more.
And I'm with you, Andrew. When you look at the box score of a driver like that of Tyler Justice or Will Klein, sometimes where they started and where they're running doesn't tell the whole story. You got to look at the highs and lows, because that's how you kind of depict how their evening has gone. We've watched Will Klein rocket to the front once before, faded a little bit early in this run. Now it appears he's on that part 2 surge to work his way back up towards the top 10, and he's 2 spots shy of doing it. And he's another driver who appears to be favoring the bottom of the racetrack, at least in turns 1 and 2, and he's trying to draw even with John Barry, but he'll concede defeat here and try to fall back in line. Now run the middle of the road here, as he's got Barry as well as Owens ahead of him for that 11th and 10th spots respectively, but Klein has not necessarily found the stride or the pace that he will need to contend for victory at this point in the race here tonight, but we still got a long way to go.
Absolutely a long way to go. And we're talking about the box scores, man. I can't wait to look at the lap chart or lap graph that iRacing provides in those post-race results, because this has been quite the run for quite a few drivers. And Will Klein, one of those drivers, he has, steadily moved his way forward. Now the second time through the field is we're coming up, about that point where pit stops can be, a factor. And if he can get himself into the top 10, he's sitting pretty to the win may be hard to come, but because of the level of competition already at the front, but he can really set himself up for a very nice finish after the day he's gone through.
I'm blown away currently by this speed from Tommy Gossett, working on Jared Darling for what will be the 7th position if he can get on by the number 1 Chevrolet Camaro. You mentioned pit stops soon. They are soon, not quite yet. I think it'd be just a bit too early for anybody to pit. I think if anything, we'll see them pit later than sooner. That said, of course, somebody could use the undercut to get a couple of positions further back in this field, but we're coming up to 50 laps to go, and again, a third of this race, so to split this race up evenly is around 45, so I don't think these guys will be pitting just yet. I think closer to 40 to go with those caution laps earlier is where we'll see the moves made. We have one actually asking real quick, Jonathan Wagoner asking about multiple green-white checkers. You best believe it. We can. It's a matter of if these guys start to get that kind of racy towards the end of this race. Bobby Chaney, he's sitting in 13th behind John Barry that we've talked a lot about this evening in 12th. Then you've got Brent Pancari, who's just been passed by this guy, Zach Lindgren, back up inside the top 15 and on his way forward.
Yeah, Lindgren appears to have the stereotypical long-run car. He's one of those drivers who the longer we get into these runs, and that 100% fuel load is going to do nothing but benefit him if we stay green, because that car just comes alive the more laps that we log. And I will say, I'm not one of those get off my lawn, not a fan of today's modern day NASCAR Cup Series rules, but I will say I am a huge fan of the way in which NORC runs their races without stage breaks, because it gives us events like this. I mean, there's no guaranteed pause. There's no predetermined pit strategy. Nothing is premeditated. You have to run your way all the way through these events, and it allows us to see some of these drivers who work throughout the week to give themselves a long run car, like Zach Lindgren, who continues to pedal his way around the bottom of the racetrack. And there are some who are not as fortunate, like John Barry. He's starting to go the wrong way. He's down to 14th, but Lindgren's up into the 12th spot, just ahead as Will Klein in 11th. And it's all because of the way in which these races are run. Without any stage breaks, with the potential of long green flag runs, we got a fight for fourth developing. We're privy to some of the action like what we're seeing here today.
How many laps has David Shutt been behind Cody Miller? I don't know the exact count, but I think he finally clears Cody Miller. A brilliant defense from Cody Miller, but man, What are you thinking if you're that 5 car? David Shutt absolutely just dropped down the running order at least a second and a half from Tyler Justice, who you were just racing with. That is a phenomenal defense again from Cody Miller, but just so unfathomable to me. You know, with the multi-groove racing and really it looked like, you know, the better tires for the 5 car, it took him that long to find a way around Cody Miller. But again, Miller placing that car exactly where it needs to be, and here comes Sean Powell to the outside looking to make it easy on the 28, but Miller not going to let that happen.
Sean Powell's taking a very interesting line. He's staying up high on entry, but then arcing and taking a late apex. That time, Miller blocks to the top side, and now is going to take the top. He knows Powell's faster, and is going to let Sean work the bottom side, but get right down on his door and try to constrict him, try to battle him, try to defend from the top side. It's going to work momentarily, almost in the fence, and Sean Powell gets on by. But again, what's interesting is the fact that Sean Powell isn't relying on that higher progressive banking through the entire corner as Miller tries again. He's actually arcing down off of that progressive banking and getting to the flatter sections of racetrack. It's only a 2-3 degree difference, Eric, but that matters over a long run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly going to pay dividends, or you could end up paying the price if you end up doing it incorrectly. But it appears to be working quite well for that of Sean Powell, who has just moved up into the top 5. As a matter of fact, Cody Miller, I'm watching his name plummet down the running order. It looks as though perhaps he's selected to, I'm not sure if he blinked out of the server or...
No, he pitted. My bad.
Wow, look at this. So, pit strategy coming into play here as we enter the final third of this race, and Daytona winner and Cody Miller on the pit lane. I think we're going to start to see things shuffle up here. Miller, they're dropping the left side tires. We expect him to be released here momentarily. Now we turn back to our leader, Falkingham, but is this the pit window where it opens up here as we're in the final 40-something laps to go?
You know, I was just about to say, Will Klein also made his way to pit road. I think he was the first one in the pit lane, except, of course, Aaron Smith, who's sitting there in the pit lane. Here is a couple more drivers coming to pit lane here, and this is really going to start to bring people to pit road, because the more people that come out at midfield, I think the rest of the midfield is going to come down, and those front runners, they're going to get wind of that, and they're going to be making their way on down very shortly as well. So over the next 10 laps, I think we'll see a lot of pit stops just because of these first 4.
Pancari, Kirker, and Day pit that time around, along with, I'm sure, a couple of more, but a lot of drivers making their way down the pit lane here at Kansas Speedway for the money stop. This is it. This is where you've got to execute. And you're not relying on human error, possibly, when it comes to your pit crew, but you are certainly relying on good RNG to get the just slightly quicker pit stop. You're relying on your entry into the pit lane, your exit out, and to make sure you use the most of what you've got. Be it the old tires coming in, the new tires exiting, and making sure you blend at the right point in time on the racetrack. A lot's got to go right if you want to gain time from these pit stops. We'll see who in the front is able to capitalize. We're still waiting to see when Falkingham makes his way down.
Yeah, and Andrew, I'm going to go off script here for a minute as we do have our eyes on the front runners here, but quick question to you. Being that we do have 41 laps to go and this is a 100% full fuel load race, is this an opportunity for these teams to maybe dial back the amount of fuel they have to wait on and take?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's something else that these drivers have to be privy to. If they're doing this all by themselves, they got to be quick not only on the steering wheel and the pedals, but as we see John Berry coming in very hot to the pit lane, and he's not alone. I believe that's Bobby Chaney, yes, who's going to follow him through. But if you're pitting here and you want to try to make up some ground on the pit lane, you want to dial back that fuel number. One, you got to make sure you hit it properly. But secondly, you got to make sure that you don't misjudge, or worse, you don't forget to try to adjust that number, because you can be sitting there for seconds longer than the competition.
Absolutely. There's so much math that goes into racing. I love it as a math nerd myself. But, you know, just noting exactly the lap you want to come in, where, you know, depending on how you want to split it, you know, split it right in the middle of, you know, the moment the green flag dropped to the end of the race, you know, not factoring in overtime attempts. And then if, you know, you're coming in, you're taking however much fuel, how much you factor in for overtime attempts. Has been a very green flag race. You take the chance to put no fuel in for overtime. What do you do? I think if there's overtime, you know, very late or late race yellow, you'll come in again for fresh tires. But nonetheless, so much math, and I think that, you know, says a lot about, you know, what else these drivers are having to to do when it comes to these pit cycles. Like you said, they have to maximize their entry, stop on their marks, because if you slide through the box a little bit, even if you're in the white lines, those pit crew members have to move forward or backwards to adjust, change your tires and all that. That's huge as well. So many little things could win or lose you this race. Could be the difference between 5th and 15th. It really is phenomenal how much goes into these bricks on wheels.
Keep in mind the very forward balance of these race cars so far. We've seen a lot of drivers be tighter than loose. Honestly, with as long as 4 tires are already going to take you, I'd say go get full or nearly full tank. You want a looser balance. You want more rear weight in the race car. You want the balance to shift more rearward, or at least as far rearward as you possibly can. So I like the idea of maybe going a bit lighter on fuel. Of course, you'll be faster down the straightaways for maybe thousandths of a second. But I don't know. It's an option. I don't know if it's the right option or not. It's up to these drivers to make that decision. But I think, especially with as tight as we've seen these race cars, as Tyler Justice works here on Zoltan Herzeg for a position not relating to pit stop just yet, I think I would want the rearward ballast in this car.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, but I just started to think, because of the fact that we are running 100% fuel loads, as Justice is all over Herzeg. And here comes Falkingham, the leader on the pit lane. And this was about to open up the discussion I was about to make here. I thought, wow, he really has slid those front tires. Fortunately, he's going to be taking 4. David Schutt's going to come down with him, as well as I believe that's Oxendine behind him as well. It is. And also Zach Lindgren. So 4 cars selected to come down here on lap number 98. This now turns into the battle for the lead. But I was curious as to if we were seeing some of the cars that came early try to split this last section of this run, or maybe we'll see some guys try to stay out and maybe catch a caution. I don't think that's going to be the case here, though, as we're watching Herzeg and Justice now, the next pair to come down for service, as Justice nearly has the right sides in the grass that time, trying to keep pace with Herzeg, while Powell now assumes the lead.
Man, it is an art form watching these drivers, who, put in, maybe put in time, maybe put in no time working on their pit entries, but it's an art form nonetheless to see these drivers extract every millisecond out of their pit stops. You saw Tyler Justice almost run over into the grass and run over Zoltan Herzeg into the pit entry. That was phenomenal. And now 4 tires on, down and away he goes. It's going to be seen, where does he merge out with Herzeg? Here on the exit. Did he get him? I think he got him.
He got him. Worth mentioning, Tommy Gossett stays out on the racetrack for a moment. He actually laps those drivers. If a caution comes out now, that changes things up quite a bit, and that certainly turns this race up on its head. Sean Powell is down the pit lane. It looks like Scott Shire in with him. Sean Williams as well. So everybody getting their stops in about lap 100 or earlier at this point, aside from Tommy Gossett, the driver out of Tennessee that continues to work further and further into this run. He's got to be waiting on a caution at this point. In fact, he is the last driver to pit. He will be the last driver to make a trip down the pit lane. Falkingham goes purple, and you see that blue 20 coming up quickly and about to unlap himself from current race leader Tommy Gossett. Hayes Booth exits the pit lane. Brent Pincari in frame. A caution would really change things up. It could benefit Tommy. Is Tommy pitting this time right in front of Hayes Booth? Yes, Tommy is finally coming down the pit lane. Cody Miller then should get the race lead momentarily. He's got, it looks like 2.5 seconds back to Will Klein. We'll see how this race goes out. What I want to mention before I finish up here and grab a breath finally, we had a question out in the chat, on the YouTube chat, on the NORC stream, about a controller in iRacing. Now, certainly a controller not recommended. However, you certainly can use a gamepad. We use it for some of our camera controls. But I will say, I would recommend, if you don't have a wheel just yet, you want to try iRacing, see if it's for you, certainly use the gamepad. Get one of the cheaper, now I don't know the code off the top of my head, but find one of the cheaper promo codes. You get 3 months as a trial run for $5. Use that gamepad. See if it's something you want to continue with. I'm sure you'll be hooked by it. I certainly was. I did the same thing before I got a wheel. I recommend going that route if you don't have a wheel just yet, but certainly get one quick. Daniel Falkingham within a second here of Will Klein.
Yeah, and I got to say, Will Klein appears to be in a bit of trouble here on this adverse strategy that he's trying to pull off, potentially. Well, remember, he was one of the first cars to pit, so with that in mind, he was, in fact, able to benefit from the fresher tires early on in this cycle. But Falkingham, who, as Andrew Cardinale IV just mentioned, laid down the fastest lap of the race 2 laps ago, he's going to easily dispose of the driver who, as we call Andrew Klein, Will Klein at the line. Easy to blend those names together. Both are very successful in their own right. But Falkingham's going to rip his way around the top. And I will say, one of the things that has caught my attention about Falkingham was that interview we got to squeeze in during the one and only caution in this race earlier on, about lap 44 or so. He appeared very, very energetic, but not overconfident. Oh, TCB with a big moment off of turn number 2, and that was right as Falkingham went by in second spot. But I'll close on this point. Falkingham appeared to be willing to admit that there was a greater task ahead as far as battling his way through the second plus half of this race. Boy, TCB has his hands full right now, and I think that match of energy and confidence without too much overzealous nature in his driving ability may parlay into him being able to grab his first win of the 2021 season if we don't see a yellow flag, which TCB is hanging on for dear life to try to prevent, as he almost loses it again off 2.
My goodness, what is happening to TCB? I've been watching the past few laps for that very reason. That 25 has not been pointed in the correct direction on corner exit the past few laps now. He hit it 14 laps ago now, and I can't imagine the tires are, worn. Maybe it's something to do with the damage on that 25, but that is very peculiar to me, considering these guys are running, fixed setups. This is interesting.
Hey, it works out for TV time. Hopefully he hangs on to that race car and we continue racing. Lead change up at the front as finally Daniel Falkingham gets on by the slower Cody Miller. And Cody's slower, by the way, if you didn't catch it earlier on, because he pitted so much earlier. There's a 10-lap difference in tires in those machines, as you see Elijah Gracia trying to go on by. Elijah Gracia is a lap down in that 42 car, would currently be the recipient of our lucky dog. Michael Keithley in tow as well. Looks like Hayes Booth is back there. So these guys are battling for a whole lot, if not just for points, also for the possibility of a lucky dog. I've just noticed it on the left side of my screen, though, the bottom side of our ticker. Guess who's had another problem in the pit lane? One Zach Lindgren is mired back here, it looks like. Well, maybe not, in 13th. At first, it showed him around 23rd or 24th, but he definitely has lost time to these guys. He was well in front of Spencer Owens and Patrick Colby. He's at least had a slower run to the pit lane, if not problems.
And that's a heartbreaker, but fortunately for him, he may have enough time for this to transition into that bit of a long run that appears to favor his car, maybe to get him up into the top 10. If we stay green, it's obviously not going to turn into what could be a race-winning effort by Lindgren, but he certainly turned some heads here tonight in more than one way. He's caught the attention of a lot of people, I'm sure his competition included, as we're on board with Tommy Gossett, who is also feverishly trying to get his way back up into the top 10. But the big question now becomes, does this race stay green throughout the remaining 25 laps? I'm shocked that we've only had one caution. We've seen drivers hanging on for dear life. We've seen drivers sliding off the corner, getting into the wall with the right side, and great racing, as Will Klein now is trying to fend off David Schutt for the 4th place spot. But if we stay green throughout the end of this race, I think Falkingham is in the catbird seat by far. But if we get a yellow and we throw everybody on a new set of tires perhaps, or mixed tire strategy, it's going to be absolute bonkers. We'll see how it all pans out, though, with Falkingham clear to the lead. Schutt trying to move further forward. He's in 4th, and Klein is one of the few hanging on for dear life in the top 5.
Yeah, Will Klein, he's been dropping backwards again. He was the first driver on pit lane, if you, I guess, take out the anomalies of the pit stops before, pit cycles happen. So Will Klein, he's on the oldest tires of the drivers on that pit cycle. And I mean, for him to be 5th, though, is still phenomenal. But he is going to be at the mercy of everybody coming up behind him. And if we do get that late race yellow, remember how aggressive Cody Miller was on that only restart we had today, and him driving forward and almost to the inside of Daniel Falkenham. That would be something if that were to happen, and something to watch, because right now he's third. Here's the battle here with Will Klein and Hertzeg around the outside. Hertzeg goes, trying to work his way into the top 5, and he'll easily do so. He'll catch up to Gracia now down the back.
The lap 45 of Ashley Molyneux there as well. You see Elijah Gracia. This long run allows for this lap traffic, and it's certainly going to affect this race. Think back to the Atlanta NASCAR Cup Series race and Joey Logano changing things up for Kyle Larson. It's going to work much the same if we get late race battles in this one. Tyler Justice has boosted himself to second position. The gap ahead, currently 3.2 seconds. It's going to take a lot to change things at the very top of the scoring pylon, but things are still close and behind as David Shutt and Cody Miller battle down the backstretch.
Miller, another driver, trying to stop the bleeding, while Tyler Justice, as you mentioned, got around for the second spot. Shutt now to third. And if we talk about drivers trying to set the stage for their season, as we look at John Berry, who's on a bit of a charge here, up through the pack as well. He's trying to catch up to Sean Powell for what would be 7th, with Oxendine a little bit further behind as they navigate through some lap traffic. Berry, though, on the move. But if you look at the ticker on the left-hand side of your screen, you know, Falkingham, somebody who's running up at the front of Daytona, got swept up in a crash. Tyler Justice, who lost out by inches at the checkered flag to Cody Miller when they came down for the finish. And David Shutt, who had his race unravel in about 3 laps' time at the halfway point. All drivers who are trying to set the tone of their 2021 season. They do not want it to be defined by their initial outing at Daytona, even though some had solid finishes, others had not so spectacular moments, and I would include Zoltan Hertzeg in that mix as well, as he is now working the inside lane to get by Cody Miller to move into P4.
Down the backstretch, this group of race cars goes, and David Shutt has recently gotten himself on by Zoltan Hertzeg. They work in front of the lapped Hayes Booth in the number 11 car as well. And Hayes, I want to quickly highlight Hayes as far as his qualifying effort in this race. He started in the 3rd position. But where has he been since? He got the outside wall very, very early on, and unfortunately never really recovered. Got straight back there with guys that were running about 20th and even 30th and on back. It's just not been a great day for him since the start of this race, but I think there's a lot to take away from with Hayes with that qualifying effort, and certainly Hayes is finding his way on iRacing. He's still one of the younger members of this league. He's got a lot to learn from this evening. I think he's got to take the good things away from this and not get too discouraged. Love working with him when we can here at Pit Stop TV. Unfortunately, tonight's not quite going his way.
Yeah, let's not forget he was running top 10 at the time of the crash on the last lap at Daytona 1 week ago. So Hayes showing flashes of brilliance as he begins to adapt to this field, this class, this car, this series, and he has so far been able to put up some examples of that. Now we drop back here to Oxendine, who's in a really great battle. How about this? Tommy Gossett, John Berry, all in a mix, but rim riding around the top and trying to thread his way through the outside retaining wall in John Berry comes Chad Oxendine, and he is now trying to work his way around the top side here for 9th. As these two battle in 1 and 2, all going on in the rearview mirror. Tommy Gossett, they almost come together off the second quarter, and the way this race is unraveling here, these drivers are going to be coming down to the checkers, battling for these last few positions if we stay green, with some very worn handling race cars or very ill handling race cars, and perhaps for some, depending on where they pitted, some very, very worn out tires.
Well, it's a good thing you mentioned that. Tommy Gossett pitted 17 laps ago. That's why he rifled on by these guys. Chad Oxendine, 21 laps ago. John Berry, 26 laps ago. And there's this guy, Zach Lindgren. I keep coming back to him for good reason, because he has worked himself back up to about the top 10, and he stayed out a little bit longer under that caution cycle, or sorry, not the caution cycle, the pit cycle, and is now starting to use those tires towards the end of this run. Even just 4 laps over John Berry is quickly closing this gap. It's off at a turn number 4. It's 7/10, maybe a little bit more. And to complete lap 121, you see it closing ever so slightly, and it's going to continue to do so. So it's not just Zach Lindgren, of course, Tommy Gossett as well. Even our race leader, Daniel Falkingham, they all stayed out a little bit longer, and they're using these tires to their advantage. Zoltan Hertzeg, though, going at it with David Shutt, this for 3rd.
It's going to be the battle for third spot as they come out of 4, and Herczeg using the high line. And we talked about the changing weather conditions and track conditions. You don't see sunlight anywhere directly on the racetrack at this point as we work the final 13 laps of this race, with Herczeg now using the top side of the racetrack to try to take third back. The problem is this battle is happening. Oh, Schutt's trying to slam the door. Herczeg look low, and Schutt throws the block on the back straightaway. That's going to intensify this battle even more so. But this is happening 4.5+ seconds behind the leader in Falkingham. It's for a podium spot, but there is a lot to lose amongst these drivers as they come down and put another lap on the board.
Tyler Justice, 2.4 seconds back of Daniel Falkingham, and closing. Maybe? Just maybe? I mean, it's starting to get closer. Not only the gap, but, well, to the end of the race. Laps ticking away. In fact, we're coming around to take 11 laps to go. This time by the start-finish line. Maybe getting close. If a lap car gets in the way of Daniel Falkingham and something goes Tyler Justice's way, this could change this race quite a bit. And currently, I mean, we're looking at Tyler finishing second 2 weeks in a row, let alone what it could be if he gets up there and battles for a race win.
Yeah, and even though that gap has started to come down about 0.2 of a second the last couple of laps, time is starting to run out for Tyler Justice to get up there and mix it up with Falkingham, who has been one of the dominant cars here throughout the night. However, Emerson Arden, I'll ask you, as track conditions start to change, you could see the leader, albeit in the distance. How tempting is it perhaps to maybe push a little bit too hard, especially considering the fact that Justice already has one runner-up finish on him this season? He doesn't want another one, does he?
Yeah, it depends. Okay, no, it doesn't depend. As a racer, you want to win. But big picture, it would be good for his season. Of course you want to win, though. Looking at the weather here, 79 degrees is the track temp now. It's really cooled off here. And Falkingham, he's still at the front of the field. But Tyler Justice is working his way forward. He's probably going to run out of time. But 2.1 seconds, it was well over 3.5 seconds at one point. And looking at the race info here, 6 lead changes today, and of course that one caution for 4 laps, as we are now into the final 8 laps, or coming around to 8 laps to go here at Kansas. Back here, this battle between Herczeg and Schutt, still for the 3rd position. Man, I don't think Herczeg wants to finish off the podium. The way he's ran today, 4th place would almost be not good enough.
I think I'd agree there for Zoltan Herczeg. The 96 always seems to be quick, at least in these last few seasons. And he is, I think, the most winning, or the winningest active driver in the series, at least full-time driver. And I think he's the winningest driver in this race. I got to check my notes, and yeah, he absolutely is. Zoltan Herczeg with 9 wins. That's incredible to think about, because we're used to having guys like Marcus Richardson with 40 wins, Bobby Zelensky with 32, Femi Olot with 26, even Freddie De La Rosa with 12. We're used to having guys like them in these races. Not this evening. Tonight, Zoltan Herczeg, a newcomer to the series, is the winningest driver. He'd love to make it 10. I just don't think it's going to happen this evening. Laps winding down. That gap is continuing to narrow, Eric. I just don't know that it's close enough. I think it's a little bit too little, too late for Tyler Justice.
I think Tyler Justice has 2 hopes in his pocket, one of which you see here, lap traffic. The second, though, would be a caution, which he might get with this battle for 3rd place. I mean, Herczeg and Schutt are having a go of it. Schutt there in car number 5 in that Toyota Supra, and on the backside, Zoltan Herczeg in that Chevy Camaro layout trying to work the outside. But these two are just blocking, ducking, diving, and weaving their way down the back straightaway. And at some point, you have to wonder if patience is going to run out in this battle for position. Herczeg, though, may be clearly alongside as they come out of 2. Schutt's not going to be able to shut the door here, and they're going to battle side by side to 3.
I think Schutt caught the apron there in 1 and 2, and that kind of paid off for Herczeg. But the send, once again into 3 and 4, Herczeg just trying to stay side by side. He might have a shot. He might have the advantage of a turn number 4 with 5 laps to go here at Kansas. Still side by side into 1. Herczeg, can he clear Schutt into 1? He's still ripping that outside lane, though, hoping for any sort of advantage off of 2.
Tyler Justice still gaining. It's not quite enough. 2 seconds with 4 laps to go this next time by the stripe. We continue to watch this battle for 3rd position. Zoltan back up into a podium position. David Schutt trying to hang on. There is a 1 lap tire advantage, if you can even call it that at that point, to Zoltan Herczeg. He gets on by the 5 car of David Shutt, and we'll see how this battle evolves. Further back, a battle for 8th. It's Tommy Gossett and now Cody Miller. This is very, very close. This is actually for 7th. And, man, this 54 just might have it on the bottom side. He's going to go right on by Tommy Gossett up to position lucky number 7.
Yeah, keep in mind, Cody Miller was one of the cars that came down very early. He was one of the first cars to pit. He is paying the price by virtue of this long green flag run. But one driver who is not paying the price is this man, and Daniel Falkingham, who is now just a handful of laps away from victory. After we called his name, we called his number many a times on the broadcast last week at Daytona, but wrong place, wrong time, as is a story for many on the super speedways. Now we get to a track where he's able to put it all back into his own hands, and Emerson Arden, he is going to be coming down to 2 laps to go. The gap back to Justice is shrinking, but it's not enough to put Falkingham in an alarm state just yet. But he certainly has to keep himself in line for the remainder of this event here, with now about a lap and a half to go.
Yeah, we're coming up on 2.5 miles here at Kansas for Daniel Falkingham. And again, just a phenomenal drive. It has been this 20 car out front, I think, for all but maybe less than 10 laps. I mean, he has absolutely had himself a piece of a race here, and it's been all him. There's, Hertzeg was a great battle at the beginning, but over the long run, Falkingham has just emerged as the driver to beat.
Through turns 1 and 2 for the final time for the number 20 of Daniel Falkingham. About to turn number 2, down the backstretch, no competition in sight. Nearly 2 seconds back to Tyler Justice out of Alabama, but it's going to be Maine's Daniel Falkingham grabbing just his 5th win, if you can believe it or not, in the NORC iRacing Series. He is a 2-time winner now at the Kansas Speedway. Daniel Falkingham wins it.
Falkingham with the dominating victory in what was a very entertaining race here at Kansas, while Tyler Justice has to settle for 2nd for the 2nd week in a row. Zoltan Herczeg 3rd. He wins the battle against David Shutt as they ran 3rd and 4th respectively. And Will Klein, after starting well out of the top 10, ends up with a top 5 finish to kind of better some of the wounds he suffered back at Daytona just 1 week ago. But how about this drive by Falkingham? We heard him earlier in the one and only caution we had in this race. He sounded like he was up to the task, but he was well aware of the competition he had to face to get to this win, and he got the job done, Emerson.
Absolutely. And again, the race was amazing. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. I knew the multi-groove racing would have made this race a lot better. As a driver, I'm sad because I enjoyed ripping that outside lane. I guess me and maybe like 3 others on the service. But as a fan, that was quite of a spectacle, and I am very, very happy with the updates iRacing's done to Kansas. And the caliber of drivers today, I think, was a perfect field to put those updates on display.
Daniel Falkingham burning it down at the Kansas Speedway and getting things done. You said it, Emerson, maybe 5 under 10 laps not led here at Kansas. I mean, he did it all today. He really did. And I simply can't believe what he's done here at Kansas. It's been an amazing run. Ed Cal mentioned it. I mentioned it. I've mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. I can't believe Daniel Falkingham only has 5 wins now in this series. It feels like he should have so many more. He dominated for a solid period of time back in about 2017, 2018, 2019. In around there, that's when oval racing was simply his bread and butter, especially the cars that NORC was racing at the time. It's incredible. He's only got now a handful of wins, but he's going to add to it, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come this season, so just stand by with Daniel Falkingham. This could be a season to remember. Gets it done here at the Kansas Speedway. We'll be talking to he and the rest of the podium finishers, Tyler Justice and Zoltan Herczeg. Do not go anywhere. Post-race coverage on the way.
Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Welcome back to the Kansas Speedway. We just saw Daniel Falkingham put on a clinic here at Kansas. An amazing race win. Certainly showed why he is a possible favorite for this championship here in NORC Season 13. Before we talk to he and the rest of the podium, want to mention, of course, that you have got to tune in next week for more of this amazing action. Tuesday, April 13th, we'll do it all over again. 100 laps at the Michigan International Speedway. Should be a fun one. 200 more miles on the way. It all gets going at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That said, though, we're ready to talk to our race winner this evening from Kansas. It is none other than Maine's Daniel Falkingham. Buddy, when I talked to you earlier on, I didn't think we'd be talking to you twice, but you lead 122 laps en route to victory.
Oh man, I'm glad nothing went wrong this race. Seems like any NORC race, I'm up front leading. Something always seems to go wrong, and thankfully, I think it's probably the most perfect race I've had in NORC. So, very thankful for that. I mean, just what a race. Didn't expect, like I said, didn't think it was going to go that perfect, that well. We pretty much just controlled the race right from the get-go. Really wish we could have had the pole. I think I could have gotten pole if I didn't miss 3 and 4 on my qualifying lap. But other than that, flawless race by me, and got some good. Feels good to go to victory lane, especially in NORC. We got a pretty tough crowd over here this season.
Certainly a big opportunity for both you to put the naysayers of the number 20 car away, but also the naysayers of NORC. I mean, you mentioned it. This was perfect racing. Only one caution, and it was a single car incident. I don't think we had anything else through this entire race, aside from maybe a few guys getting up into the fence. A very, very clean race this evening.
Yeah, I was honestly very surprised how well the race, or how clean the race was. Probably, I think it had a lot to do with the setup and whatnot, and maybe how we could run multiple lanes, because the setup was overall tight. So people really couldn't, anyone really couldn't lose the car. They couldn't spin out. Some people were probably just hitting the wall because of how tight the car was and whatnot. That's why brought out our only yellow, I guess, Heron smacked the wall and spun out. But yeah, I think it had a lot to do with the setup, with how tight it was. And like I said, probably having a little bit of multi-groove racing, where, I mean, the bottom was more preferred tonight, but you could rip the high line a few times and it would work well. I mean, that's how I managed to probably get the lead off of Zoltan at the start of the race. So yeah, like I said, very surprising by NORC standards, but hopefully this is a sign of good things to come.
So it's win just number 5 for you, if you can believe it or not. It feels like you should have a whole lot more. How many do we think we add to that total this season? It feels like this could be the season of Daniel Falkingham to go far beyond that win total of 5.
I don't know. We'll see. So this is the longest NORC season we've had in history, so a lot more opportunities, not in a span of like 12, 13, 14 weeks or whatever it is, but gives us a lot more opportunities to win with the longer season, and Yeah, and well, I have a lot of good tracks on the schedule this season. So I know we got a few road courses in there and another few mile and a halves, quite a few short tracks too. So I'm feeling pretty good going forward into the season. It just felt good to get the monkey off my back, get a win early on, and now we can go really have some fun and try to rack up some more points and hopefully be in a good spot in the point standings when the chase rolls around and whatnot to get those the very important bonus points to start out the chase. So just going to keep going week by week, and I'm going to keep performing to the best of my ability, and hopefully, like I said, it's a good sign, good things to come in the future.
Absolutely. Daniel Falkingham grabbing victory this evening. Started second, but he won this race, finished first. He was as high as first, of course. I think he was in first for more laps than anybody else could have ever expected. Daniel Falkingham, congratulations this evening. Who do you have to thank? Who did a shout out tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to thank John Barry for putting the league on. I know we had a bit of a hiatus, and we're coming back strong. We had a really good field tonight compared to what we had last week at Daytona, showing a lot of people really interested in getting back into NORC and whatnot. So thanks for all he's done in the offseason to get us prepared for this a little bit of a longer NORC season. It's going to be a fun one. I got to thank everyone who comes and races each and every week. It was definitely a fun race to come out and race tonight, and I appreciate everyone for being clean, using their heads tonight as well. Also got to thank you guys for putting on the broadcast. Thank you guys for coming on board this season. I think definitely going to be a fun broadcast to go back and watch. And thanks to all the fans who might be out watching us tonight. And also got a shout out to my personal sponsors, First Rate Bait and Lobster 207 as well.
Once more, congratulations this evening, Daniel. A big win here at Kansas. Can't wait to see what you do this season in Season 13 of NORC.
Thank you, Andrew.
Daniel Falkingham, again, a big win for him. I believe the first of many this season. We'll see how it goes for this guy as well. I am beyond impressed with this number 7 Gearheads Coffee Chevrolet Camaro, and, well, Eric's got him trackside.
Thanks a lot, Andrew, and we're going to welcome Tyler Justice into the broadcast booth, who is going to celebrate, perhaps, we'll use that term lightly, his second place finish in 2 races of the season. And Tyler, I just got to ask you right off the top. I know that a race car driver has famously quoted in the past, second sucks, but when you're looking at this caliber of a field on 2 different racetracks such as Daytona and Kansas, I think you have a lot to be proud of with the results you put up in these first 2 races. But I'll ask you bluntly, what are your thoughts? I know you came up just inches short at Daytona, a little bit further margin of victory here, but your pace was certainly one of the best in the field. How do you feel after being able to cap off your first 2 starts of this season with runner-up finishes, knowing that you certainly have had race-winning pace?
I'm very pleased. You know, like you said, second kind of sucks sometimes, but two really good weeks in a row for us, and like you said, we showed really good pace tonight. I mean, I was happy with it. We started, I think, like 17th, and somewhere on like lap 3 or 4, someone came off turn 2 and was their nose headed into my door, so I took a sharp left to avoid it and fell all the way back to 31st and was able to pick our way back up through there, and it was the car felt really good. I didn't have a whole lot of fall off. I mean, after I looked at my tires after that first pit stop, I knew that we were somewhere in the ballpark, so I just didn't know how close we were to those top 2 right there, Daniel and Zoltan there. So, but after that one restart, we restarted like 5th or something up there with them. I felt pretty good about it and thought we were going to be able to contend with them. And that last pit stop there, I just came in a lap too late. I feel like I was reeling in Zoltan a little bit and got by him there, and I was catching Daniel a little bit. I don't know how hard he was pushing there when we came to pit, but it felt pretty good at the end of that run. I wish I would have came in when Daniel did. I felt like we could have had a good shot to get to him there, but overall, I can't complain. You know, 2 second place finishes in a row. We'll take that as good points, so we'll just focus on next week.
Certainly a great start to the year, especially against this caliber of a NORC field that we have in 2021. And I'm glad you hit on the point of what happened at the beginning of the race, because we noticed the name fall back in the running order, and then we watched you methodically work your way further forward. But you were the fastest in practice here tonight, and we kind of penciled you in as a potential favorite to win the pole. And it looks like a slight mistake in qualifying perhaps maybe set you behind the 8 ball. I mean, do you think maybe tonight would have panned out a little bit differently if qualifying had gone a little bit more smoothly, or, did the night unfold the way that it was destined to regardless? What are your thoughts there as far as how big of a role qualifying played in your night this evening?
A little bit, not too much. I mean, I don't think it handicapped us any at all there. I mean, if we would have got a good qualifying result, I feel like it could have been a little easier to, you know, manage the tires and whatnot. But overall, I mean, I think we probably finished where we were going to, you know, unless I made a different, you know, approach coming to that last pit stop there. I think I lost it on that last pit stop. It was just I he came in so quick, and I didn't realize or think about, you know, how good one lap newer tires was going to be at this track. So I really didn't know, so I just went out one more lap, and I think that's kind of what ended up ultimately putting us in second there. But overall for qualifying, no, I don't think it really had much to do with it. So it is what it is, and I'm just happy to get a good point stay again.
Yeah, a spectacular start to the season, and you were closing in on Daniel, and I know you mentioned you're not sure how hard exactly he was pushing, but you did shape down about a half second in the final 7 laps or so. Were you hoping for a late race caution, or if we were to weigh risk versus reward, we know how crazy these restarts could be. Were you hoping for an opportunity perhaps to catch him and settle it under green, or was a part of you wishing that we would see a green-white checker there at the end?
I wasn't necessarily hoping for a caution, but I wouldn't have been mad if it happened there. But you never know. I mean, them restarts could have been, that could have, you know, someone could have washed up and got you, and, you know, you going back to 15th. So I think it going green was best for us there. The top seemed to roll a good bit in the first 3 or 4 laps or so, but after that, it was just a 1-lane track on the bottom. You could kind of roll the middle in 1 and 2, mid to late run, but other than that, it was just on the bottom. But yeah, I think it going green was the best thing for us there.
Well, Tyler, you've proven that not only you're good on the super speedways, but you got a really good intermediate package underneath you for 2021 as well. We're going to Michigan next week. You have a lot to look forward to there. I'm sure that you're going to be a contender. But who do you have to thank for this incredibly strong start to the season to help make this possible, you know, with all your partners who you've been able to kind of showcase with these back-to-back strong runs?
Yeah, just thank all my teammates at Phase 2 Motorsports, as always. Thank all our sponsors, Gearhead Coffee, Matrix Muscle Cars, Amsoil. Thank everybody who puts the league together. Thank all the drivers out there. And thank you guys for broadcasting, as always.
The pleasure is all ours, Tyler. And Tyler Justice, back-to-back runner-up finishes to start off the season. I'm sure you're going to be knocking on the door for victory come Michigan 1 week from tonight. Congrats on another top 2 finish, buddy.
I appreciate it.
And again, that is Tyler Justice, back-to-back second-place finishes, and I will give him a ton of credit. If I had to finish second back-to-back weeks, I would be a lot more upset than he was there. He appears to have the bigger picture in sight, and he's certainly going to be fun to watch in the weeks to come. But I'll turn it over to Emerson Arden, who's going to have our third-place finisher here on the night.
Thank you, Eric, and gonna see if we can get Zoltan in here. Zoltan, how you doing, man? Great run tonight, but first I have to ask you, that battle with David Shutt, absolute blast to watch, but what are your thoughts on it?
It was a fun battle. You know, when you race Shutt, it's always going to be a tight fight, you know, especially towards the end of the race. So I had to kind of lay back, cool my tires off, and just wait for the right moment to try to get by him. But I was definitely glad I got by him. I wanted a podium. I was a little disappointed in last week's result, so this is definitely good.
Right on. And today, you know, you were up there. We said your name a lot because you were up there towards the front. But it looked like Daniel Falkingham had your number tonight. Well, had the track's number tonight. But was there anything, I guess, maybe you learned or anything you could have done differently to either match or, you know, keep with Falkingham or?
Yeah, the first run I did it right. I was taking it easy. We kind of battled for a little bit in the beginning, and then kind of just laid back and just ran laps, and then slowly getting them towards the end. I went from like a half, I started gaining a 10th here, 10th there, and then we had that caution, and then I wanted to try to replicate that after that, but I wore the right front a little too much, and then I just failed on pit road and lost a ton of time on pit road, and that was kind of my demise for that race.
Right. So third place finish here at Kansas. I haven't even asked, how does it feel to end up on a podium? It's some good company on this podium, but a third place finish, how do you feel?
It's definitely great. It's always awesome to start the season off well, you know, and podiums always help, you know.
Absolutely. Next week at Michigan, what can we expect for this 96 car?
I'm hoping somewhat close to tonight. and I don't know, it might be a good race. I have a feeling it's gonna pack up pretty good towards the front, so it should be fun to watch.
Sweet deal. Third place finish tonight. Who makes it happen for you? Who do you have to shout out?
I got to thank John Barry for putting on this league. Thanks everybody racing clean. That was a fun couple long runs we had. That's you don't see that a lot on iRacing anymore, so it was definitely cool to do. And I got to thank you guys for broadcasting. You guys do a great job. And thanks everybody watching.
Absolutely. Once again, congratulations on the third place finish tonight. Best luck to you next week at Michigan.
Thanks, man.
Third place finisher Zoltan Hertzeg, great guy to talk to here, and very positive about the podium. Love to hear it. Send it back up to Andrew with the rest of our post-race festivities.
I think the fact that so many drivers are so happy about such long runs this evening says a lot about the iRacing driver base currently, but it also says a lot about the NORC driver base. The fact that we were able to run 134 laps with just one caution for 4 laps, maybe 5 laps under that caution period. That is extraordinary for the NORC iRacing series, and certainly very promising for the rest of the season. We'll take a look at the full field rundown. Daniel Falkingham wins it this evening by just under 2 seconds over a late charging Tyler Justice, coming back from a big setback earlier on in this race with contact with Cole Freilich and more. Zoltan Hertzeg ends up in third position. We talked to both of those guys, along with, of course, race winner Daniel Falkingham. David Shutt ends up fourth. Will Klein at the line, not quite up there at the top of the scoring pylon, but fifth, nothing to scoff at. Sean Powell, a very quiet first start for him in NORC, and his debut goes well. Sixth position, just 9 seconds back of eventual race winner Daniel Falkingham. Cody Miller, Chad Oxendine, just in behind another late charging Tommy Gossett. So surprised out of that speed in the 54 car. That Toyota Supra was certainly on rails there at the end. And I gotta say, again, former roommate Zach Lindgren down there in 10th position. He's now got as many top 10s in one start in NORC as I have in 43.
Well, that's definitely one more than I've got, I'll tell you that. Let's go to the second page of results here. John Berry, who we saw had a really good short run car, but as we mentioned, and we just heard Zoltan Hertzeg kind of harp on it, the longer the runs went here, it was not in John Berry's favor. Same for Spencer Owens. They finished 11th and 12th, respectively. Sean Williams had a great qualifying run, started up in the top 5, ran there throughout the first half of that first run, faded a little bit later, 13th. Patrick Colby, quiet night in car 9, ended up in 14th spot. And Brett Pinkari is a name that we did not call throughout the evening at car 35, and that's in good measure, meaning that Brett was able to keep that car out of trouble, kept it pointed in the right direction, and salvaged a top 15 finish when all was said and done. Bobby Chaney, 16th. Aiden Kirker, despite a brush with the wall midway through the race, 17th. And Howie Briss, what could have been if he had not damaged the right side of that car so early while running in the top 10, able to salvage an 18th place finish on the lead lap. Same for Cole Freilich. This is back-to-back races where Freilich found trouble and sustained damage early in the going. Excited to see what Cole has in store for us by the time we get to Michigan. And Taylor Frey rounds out our top 20, all of which on lead lap when they came to the checkers here in Kansas.
Final car in the lead lap will be 21st place driver Scott Shire. Then we find the drivers who were 1 lap down. 22nd, Sheldon Lockie. 23rd, it'll be Justin Day. 24th, Hayes Booth. After starting up towards the front, I believe he was 3rd or 4th, and then had some trouble early, and he was just never able to fully recover. He'll come on 24th. Elijah Grassi at 25th. Michael Keithley, 26th. Jared Darling, 27th. After he was running up in the top 10, might have had some trouble on that last stint. He'll come home 27th. Final driver, 1 lap down. Tom Mercier, 28th. Ashley Molyneux, 29th. And TCB, he'll actually end up 30th, 15 laps down. We saw him going for some wild rides on the top side of the racetrack towards the end there.
Just 4 more cars made the trip to Kansas Speedway this evening. Dylan Hervaten, we saw him in the chat just a little while ago, made exactly half of the laps here. 67 laps completed, 67 laps down to the race leaders, and ends up 31st this evening. Our one caution of the evening, Aaron Smith. Unfortunately, the appropriately colored tonight, yellow number 70, ends up 71 laps down, 32nd position. Matt Hummel gets credit for 33rd, while Dylan Patterson did not make the start of this race. So the number 03 is credited with 34th position this evening. Guys, again, another great race here out of NORC. We've had nothing but great contests so far, and this is certainly adding to a growing list of amazing races, and I think we've got a lot more that are going to have to make room this season.
I agree with you, Andrew, and I will tell you, I've told my wife and everybody I'm associated with on these sim racing broadcasts that these are races that I genuinely look forward to. And the reason is we have an interesting cast of characters, but tonight proved they put on a good show. Now, granted, Daytona was chaotic with the Xfinity Series car, the environment, the fact that it was the season opener for their 13th season of competition. And obviously, there was a lot of intensity and a lot of angst to get things underway, and we were still privy to an exceptional finish, a lot of great saves, and then we come to Kansas, a place in which, you know, people are on the fence about how they feel about mile-and-a-half racing, whether it be in real life or on the sim. And these drivers put on an incredible show. Only one caution, as you mentioned, and we did see a couple of drivers kind of right the ship after some bad luck at Daytona. And fortunately for us, it's a long season. We get even more of this as the season winds on, and we're going to go on to Michigan, which also has a bit of a reputation as being a rather intense and unpredictable intermediate layout on the sim. And now Daniel Falkingham has got himself pretty much at the center of the bullseye for what the field is chasing, as well as Tyler Justice with the strong start to his season. And I expect these storylines to continue to kind of wind and weave their way through the thread of the story that we are trying to sew together on Pit Stop TV. I love it, and I'm psyched. I can't wait till next Tuesday.
Absolutely, the show we get put on every night or every Tuesday night now on. The intent, I guess the what's the right word? Anyway, I'm very excited for this series, and I know we're already 2 races in, but I don't really know what I was going with now. But nonetheless, well, we'll use it. The caliber of drivers in this field is beyond no other. I mean, we have pace coming from drivers, you know, who started deep in the field. Granted, they, you know, some of them didn't qualify, and we know what happened to Tyler Justice on his lap. But it just shows that any one of these drivers could show up one week and have something to say about that race win. And I think that shows that we can have a very competitive, very fun season here at NORC, and I'm all for it.
Absolutely, I'm right there with you. Amazing racing this evening. Just one caution again. Speaks volumes on the caliber of drivers that we have here, and the caliber of partners as well that we have here at Pit Stop TV. Tucson Sound Art, your picture, your music. Use promo code PitStopTV at checkout for 10% off of your order today. It's a product you don't think you need until you realize you do, and I certainly stand by this product. Robert Patton Gale and his team at Tucson Sound Art do amazing work, as well as race pace setups where Tyler Campbell will get you fixed up and get you rolling quick in your next iRacing road event, be it official racing. He's got setups out there for the VRS, GT3 races, GT3 challenge, whatever it may be. He has got you taken care of, especially in GT3, but also putting together setups for XSLR, a league that we cover on Sunday nights, and he's soon going to be racing over there as we run our first Rallycross event with those guys this Sunday. Make sure to tune in, as Race Pace is, well, certainly kind of put in the spotlight this Sunday evening. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how our partner Race Pace setups can do in all of that. And they've won us races, I'll just say it, at Whiplash Racing. So certainly Race Pace setups is highly recommended here at Pit Stop TV. Permanent makeup and cryo in Maine, also highly recommended. If you are in need of any kind of permanent makeup and cryo work, check these guys out. Now, I also got to say, my grandfather, actually, at 71 years young, just recently got I believe a facial done here. I don't exactly know all the specifics, whatever, but he looks great, and he looks even greater as a result. You would never know that he's 71 years old. It's incredible what Ashley Bollier, Evan Bollier, and all of their team is able to do. They've got multiple locations throughout the state of Maine: Auburn, Lewiston, Harrison, even opening one up soon in Naples. A lot of great stuff going on for permanent makeup and cryo in Maine, as well as Whiplash Media, the official graphic and camera provider of Pit Stop TV. Guys, quick roundtable. Final thoughts on this one from Kansas and going into Michigan next week.
Well, it may not surprise a lot of people, but I'm a bit of a betting man, and if I was going to place place bets on tonight's race, if I would have been told the over-under on cautions was 1, I would have taken the over. If I would have been told that the over-under on laps led for Daniel Falkingham was going to be what it was, I would have taken the under. I think that tonight's race, albeit maybe not the slam-bam expectations that we would have thought we would have seen coming into it, even though it didn't live up to that level of hype, it still kept us all thoroughly entertained throughout, and the unpredictability was alive and well with the way in which we saw drivers rise and fall through the running order, and to me, that's what motorsports is all about. So this series, as far as I'm concerned, from the schedule, the format, the cast of drivers we have, has perfected the art of what it is meant to have a league in sim racing, and as I said as we closed out Daytona, I'm just happy to be a part of this thing, and I can't wait till, as you can see on the bottom right-hand portion of your screen, we get to Michigan 1 week from tonight on April 13th.
Thoroughly enjoyed the race. I was actually kind of surprised with how much action, how much I guess overtaking was able to be done because of the updated setup and package here for Kansas Speedway. Again, just knowing this track as a driver, it's a top side only track. Well, that's what I thought it was anyway. And I was thoroughly impressed with the way this track drove tonight. Very happy to get on the sim and try it out myself. But as far as NORC went, it surprised me. I'm gonna be honest. I was, again, not expecting this great of a show, and now I have a much better mindset going into Michigan, and I'm expecting a great show there.
Absolutely. This evening, full of amazing racing, full of amazing storylines, and I cannot wait to get to Michigan in 1 week's time. Make sure you tune in next week, again, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. You see it on the right side of your screen. We'll have some extra special coverage to begin that one as well. And very much looking forward to the Michigan International Speedway here at the NORC iRacing Series in Season 13, but that does do it tonight from Kansas. We at Pit Stop TV, thank you for tuning in and joining us for tonight's action, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. We've got plenty of racing throughout this week. Now, we do have a few days off. We're off air tomorrow, Wednesday night. We're off air Thursday night as well, but make sure to be here Friday. We've got Xfinity cars on Tuesdays now. We've got Cup cars on Fridays with the LTAC Cup Series. And, these two guys next to me, Eric Brennan and Emerson Arden, will take you through coverage this Friday evening from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway as LTAC, I believe, runs their 12th race of 29. That season quickly in full swing. I'm amazed that we're already this many races in, and there's plenty of racing to go. Great storylines as well. We had Anthony Masadi out in the chat earlier on. Make sure to see how he does. He's the most recent winner from Pocono. It'll be a lot of fun watching those guys do battle next week at New Hampshire. Of course, we also have, as I mentioned, Cross Series League Racing heading to the Charlotte Motor Speedway for their first round of Rallycross action. They've had 2 weeks straight of Pro 2 light action at Charlotte and Phoenix. They're doing that rotation again, beginning this week with Charlotte Motor Speedway and their Rallycross layout before heading back out west to Phoenix Raceway. It should be a whole lot of fun. Make sure to tune in Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And, right back here in 1 week's time with the NORC iRacing Series when we go to Michigan International Speedway. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/pitstoptv, on Twitter at pitstoptv_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/pit_stop_TV, and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/c/pitstoptv1. For all of Pit Stop TV, again, Eric Brennan, Emerson Arden alongside me on the mic, Trey Shuttlesworth on our social media coverage, which, by the way, you all need to go check out. An amazing job done this evening. I was looking through it a little bit earlier on. Great stuff from Trey this evening. Definitely check it out on Facebook and Twitter, and now Instagram as well. You can go find us at pitstoptv_. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Have a great night.